Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, brothers, and sisters. Welcome back to round 6 of the VMS LMU season number 4, round 6 of 8. We head to Brazil for what is going to be a fantastic race. Yes, that's a broken record statement, and I don't apologize for making it. We are at Interlagos for what is going to be a very, very interesting race. Not because of the usual standard of driving, which is exemplary from our Platinum split, but we have got some heavy rain that is going to start the race. Won't be throughout, it'll be at the beginning, and then it will dry out. So it is really going to throw the cat amongst the pitches. We've already seen a few spins during the practice session that you can see in the background. But we will see how many people keep their cars on the straight and narrow. My name is Chris Buxton. I'll be one of your commentators throughout tonight's event. Joining me in the box, I'm very happy to say, is Ed Hunter. Welcome back, Ed. Glad to have you with me.
Oh, I'm glad to be with you as well. Yeah, it's certainly been a really interesting season so far, and we're getting into those closing stages, aren't we, in the Platinum split. And Hypercar, it's really turned into Grigoletto versus Gillison, our 2 Gs, maybe Geelhead as well, technically still in there, our 3 Gs if you, or 4 Gs you want to include Brandon Geitz. Yeah, there we go. So
yes, your surname has to begin with a G if you want to be at the top of the Hypercar class.
Poor Henrik Gamble, regretting bailing on his season so early. Not the case, of course, in GD3, where we thought Luke Whitehead was going to be the overwhelming favorite. Last 2 rounds, Alexis Herndt has really fought back at Spa and Sebring and are taking control in the standings then. So Luke Whitehead is really going to be up against it if he wants to get back to title winning race. He's won a sprint title a couple of seasons ago, but yeah, Alexis Herndt has really been exceptional in these last couple of rounds, hasn't he, in his Lamborghini Huracan. And then we got the likes of Hamadani on 61 points, still sort of within reach of Whitehead. And then Marin Bessier, who got dropped out the points of a late penalty. I think him and Whitehead both cut the pit entry line and got in trouble for that at Sebring. So they got post-race penalties. Tommy Lydon in P5 with his podium from Paul Ricard. And then rounding out our top 10, we got Ramone Schindler, who changed cars mid-season. Most of his points is from coming second at Spa. Alexander Hanna, Christian Malguera, and I believe Sam Gaskell, our substitute driver, who was second at Sebring last time out as well. So I think Sam said he might not be doing this round, but in the interview post-race, if I remember correctly, it was a while ago. But
it was a while ago, yeah, you're absolutely right. And yeah, I've slept since then, so I can't remember what was said. But yeah, Sammy Gaskell did an absolutely superb job with us in Sebring in his kind of maiden race in the season. As you can see on screen, the remainder of the championship standings: Niclas Huben, Marius Pedersen, Remy Delorme, Artem Manisha, Valentin Berrier in the double digits, but Adrian Portal on 8, not off the mark yet, is Alexandre Lay, Julien Hano, and Nicholas Lemoyne. So yes, it is a little bit closer at the top of the tree in our LMU category, but we will get to them when they are on track. So for those unfamiliar with the setup, I said LMU category, it's Hypercar category. What am I talking about? We're at the beginning of the
right? I got to say iRacing or Assetto Corsa or something like that.
Use bad language in my presence. No. Our Hypercar class, we will talk about the championship standings for them when they are on track. We are looking at our GT3 championship leader in his Lamborghini. 3 wins of the 5. He is yet to finish off the podium this season. Such has been his consistency, is Alexis Herndt. Leads away 121 points before drop scores. There is going to be 1 drop score round in the calculations when all is said and done after our final race at Le Mans. There is Luke Whitehead switching over to the Mustang for this season. Was in the Ferrari last time around, as he was part of the Ferrari esports squad. So 2 wins so far in this season. It has been somewhat mixed for the British ace this season. I think it is fair to say, by his own admission as well. He's been chased by one of the Falcon-flavoured Mercedeses.
Might be Thomas Lydon.
Well spotted. Yes, it is indeed Thomas Lydon in the Mercedes. The Mustang of Luke Whitehead looked very tail happy coming through Junxiao on his, assuming he's going to be his first time lap. So for those unfamiliar with the formats, it is going to be 10 minutes of qualifying for our GT3s until the clock comes down to 15 minutes. Then there is a 5-minute crossover for the final laps to be completed for our GT3s, and then our hypercars will then be allowed to leave the pit box if they so choose to, but they cannot get onto the track until 10 minutes is remaining on the clock, and then hypercars will have their 10-minute qualifying session, and then the grid is properly formed, as we are looking at Niclas Lemoyne, who is yet to get off the mark as far as the points are concerned. There is Luke, currently in second position. It is Melguera in the Lexus that currently has the top of the tree, having swapped to that car for the endurance round in Spa. What was Melguera originally in? He was
McLaren
in the
720S.
He was, yes, ditching the British mark. Well, one British mark for another. We say British mark, they're kind of not built over here these days, but yeah, the Melguera making the most of the Lexus so far.
Yeah, and speaking of which, there is another driver that is making a change for this round. That's Alexandre Lay, who's changed from the Lexus to the Ford Mustang. So it's interesting, we now have 4 Ford Mustangs. There it is with the Opelite Sim Racing livery on the Mustang. That's a bit of an unusual sight this season, because I don't think any of the Opelite drivers have yet ventured into the Mustang. Now, the interesting thing talking about Luke Whitehead, as we see Manisha set the fastest time in the Corvette, immediately beaten by about a second actually by Luke Whitehead there, who sets a 133.8 there. Him and Alexis Hearn, as expected, locked in a almost dead heat there in the battle for pole position, as Niclas Lemoyne also getting a lot of time in that middle sector, particularly out of the Mustang on this particular lap. But if you've been watching the gold split, another Tatum Racetech Esports driver, Jacko Matrese, is currently on a huge winning streak. He's won last four rounds in a row in that particular Mustang. So I did joke, maybe Luke Whitehead should be getting a few tips from Jacko Matrese when I interviewed him. So I wonder if maybe we'd had a couple of rounds that didn't suit the Mustang quite so well, like Spa, like Sebring, and I wonder Interlagos might be more Luke Whitehead and Mustang territory. And Lay goes second fastest, so there, almost proving my point. Mustang's really on a rich vein of form, as here comes Hannah, fastest in the middle sector.
Fastest in the middle sector indeed for Alexander Hannah. What can he do in the round in Lexus? That is third for him in the number 45 car, the Visceral sponsored machine. There is our GT3 did a purple sector 1 in the Lamborghini, and not sole Lamborghini, there are a few of them in the field this time around. See what Alexis Heron gets on the board. Currently fourth in the Italian mark, fastest sector 2 as well. Now sector 1 fastest has just been replaced as Melguera gets up into third. Thomas Leiden in the Mercedes gets the top spot with a 33.7. Is he about to be dethroned? A 33.2 on the board for Alexis Heron. Remy Delorme chases him home. Now Marin Bessier, the whole board is alive with new fastest laps or new personal bests.
They're warming up the tires, aren't they? They're now finally up to temperature, and that's why we're seeing these low 133s, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. So far better than I would ever achieve at Interlagos. Interlagos is a very special track for me in a number of ways. As Alexandre Lay, we can see he's getting green sectors, so personal best sectors on the board, currently in 10th in the Mustang, where I'll finish that sentence shortly. Let's just see where
P2
up into P2, stunning final sector, purple's final sector to slot into second place on the front row along with Alexis Heron. Now Interlagos is a fabulous circuit. I've been a fan of Interlagos for many years from a spectator standpoint, but I actually took part in a charity F1 event, F1 sim racing event a number of years ago. Now bearing in mind, I have never turned a wheel in any of the Formula 1 games. This is when I was heavily involved in F1 esports commentary. And literally 10 minutes before the race start, I was talked into taking part. 10 minutes before the race, before the qualifying began, in a game So in a game I've never turned a wheel in, I didn't even know how to deploy boost, how to open DRS. I was last unlapped in a 5-lap race. That is my accolade. But I hold Interlagos so fondly. It's such a brilliant circuit. We've seen so much great racing in sim racing in real life form. I love it here, and I enjoy that particular story. Nick Domino, our man in control of the cameras today, is gigging me away at that one. But
Ooh.
yeah, there was.
Sorry to interrupt the end of your story, but I did see there was a yellow flag briefly, and Luke Whitehead was greyed out and then sent to the pit lane. So I think that might be the end of Whitehead's qualifying.
Yeah.
He ends, well, it might just be because he just set that second fastest lap, 83 thousandths behind our Alexis Hern's pole time there. So here we go. I think he just comes to a stop here at the end of the Rotor Aposta.
Well, let's have a look. So he was obviously on a lap. Has he got
straight on?
Too deep. Yeah,
maybe he knew he didn't have the fuel for another run.
Either that, or he's missed his braking point. He's tried to push it too hard into Interlagos at turn 4 and sailed off. But 83 thousandths behind Heron. They're very much picking up where they left off. It is Artem Manisha, our sole Corvette. Let us see where he slots in. Up into 4th, a 33.4 on the board. Wow, again, very, very close. That's Alexandre Lay is now up into 3rd position in the Mustang. Very nicely done. There's Marin Bessier. Thomas Leiden jumps up into 5th position. Or he's now pitted. No, Bessier is doing no more on this one. That's Patrick Schindler. That is Hanno. We haven't seen him towards the sharp end. What can he do? Yellow for Alexis Heron. He's probably sailed off. Done the same thing. Yeah, he parked up. Oh, he's missing a section of his car, so he's had an incident there. His Heron. So Alexander Lay had actually chosen to continue. Oh, Patrick Schindler has parked it somewhere, along with Niclas Lemoyne. It would seem everyone wants to have a go at causing a yellow flag. It would seem. Is Lay going to continue on? He is. Green sector 1 and 2. Couple of tenths to find. Oh, purple sector 3 by 12 thousandths of a second. Not enough to put him up any further along the grid order. Remy Delorme has parked it and invented his own. There's a few people doing a Fernando Alonso and finding their own spectator spot.
Yeah, here's a Kolosov, by the way. He just comes to a halt there. But Vladislav Kolosov did the last round. He's never our substitute drivers being promoted up from the gold split. He's been on pole position in the gold split back at Silverstone, and usually the Lamborghinis are quite competitive in that particular split then. But Kolosov today, 7th on the grid, respectable, but not quite. He's about 2.5 tenths away from our pole set Alexis Hunt. Malguera, the Italian, gets the Lexus up to P12. So there's a bunch of Lexus cars near the back. Remy Delorme, the only one to get the Lexus into the top 6 here. So I wonder, with the fairly recent update from a month or 2 ago, whether those who picked the Lexus at the start of the season are now starting to realize it's not well suited to Interlagos, because especially not over 1 lap. Anyway, maybe in the rain at the start of the race it could be a different deal. But here we go. There's your qualifying order, Chris.
Indeed. So our front row is Alexis Heron and Luke Whitehead, the Lamborghini and Mustang respectively. Then Alexandre Lay and Artem Manisha in Mustang and Corvette have row 2. Thomas Leiden and Remy Delorme in our lead Mercedes and Lexuses respectively have row 3. Row 4 is Vladislav Kolosov in what is one of my favorite liveries. That is a stunning livery that he has for the Russian Rise Esports squad. He is joined by Marin Bessier in the number 4 Mustang on row 4. Row 5 is Patrick Schindler and Mehdi Hamadani in the next Lexus and Lamborghini respectively. Row 6 is Alexander Hanna and Christian Margera. On row 12 is Julian Hanno and Niclas Lemoyne, and Niclas Huben not setting a lap time in the sole McLaren. So now it is a little bit of crossover. Our hypercars are not allowed to enter the circuit until 10 minutes is remaining, and this is how the championship is looking for them. Fabio Grigoletto just getting into triple figures. In the Cadillac, he is being chased by Isaac Gillison on 73, Sven Gilhead on 57, and Brandon Geitz on 49. Your surname has to begin with a G if you want to be in the top part of the hypercars. Marco De Porno in the BMW is on 46 with Yone Simoncic in the Valkyrie. We saw him struggling a little bit in practice before we came on air. He's on 35, along with Dario Yemolo in the Ferrari. Johannes Priest in the lead, not quite lead Peugeot, that is Brandon guys. He is on 22 with Matthias Latau on 19 and David Naskidashvili on 18 points, rounding up the top 10. Arderchan changed car, didn't he? A few rounds ago, he did. So his points purely as a result of Sebring.
Yeah, I think he's in the Cadillac now, isn't he, Tran?
I'm not certain. Actually, what is...
He's certainly not in the Toyota, that's for sure.
Oh no, I still got him as Toyota, so I may not have noted what he has changed to. If he has changed from the Toyota, I
might be getting mixed up with another driver from Gold Split. Sorry, but if he is still in the, I don't think he would have changed from Toyota. He did start in the Toyota definitely, so I don't think he's gone Toyota just to a different Toyota. That wouldn't make sense.
That wouldn't make sense, no. So we'll double check what he is.
I know Michi Hoyer in 12 though is definitely changed to the Ferrari from the Alpine.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Now, our hypercars have left the garage and they are going to be gathering at the end of the pit lane until 10 minutes is remaining on the clock, as previously said. But we'll just quickly run down the rest of the field. Henri Gamble on 12 points, as Michi Hoyer on 15. Mentioned them. Marco Cantor on 10, Rafael Bila on 6, Alex Siebel on 2, and Moritz Ulrich on 1. Yet to get off the board is Paul Puo. He has changed cars since the last round. So I'm not sure what Paul is running. He's listed as the BMW there, and he was in the Cadillac, so that I would think is correct. So I am just going to make that because I'm done coming into this round. Leonardo Pisoni and Giuseppe Di Noia all on 0 at this point in time. Now they changed car, but they changed car for Spa, and they didn't finish in Sebring, so that's why they remain on 0. 10 minutes then on the clock, and away go our hypercars for their qualifying session to begin.
Yeah, and it's been a really interesting fight, hasn't it, between Grigoletto, our reigning double champion, and Gillison from Ferrari Esports, of course, because Isaac Gillison, of course, missed the first round of the season at Fuji, and then got his first win at Paul Ricard, crashed out, didn't he, of Silverstone. And then since there was that great race at endurance round at Spa where Gillis and Grillo fought each other for the lead, and also Dario Mulo in between them in the end in the final order. And then Sebring, Gillison again struck back. Grigoletto just about got the car home in fourth as Michi Hoyer held him off in that brilliant showdown near the end of that race then. So, yeah, Grigoletto's certainly not had things his own way, despite the lead looking big at the moment. Remember, there is a drop score round, so at the moment, Grigoletto's worst result is the Silverstone, where he only got the 10 points, finishing, I think, in the top 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed.
So that means, in reality, at the moment, with drop scores applied, the gap is, well, it's only 13 points already, because it would be Grigoletto 90 points instead of 100, and Gillison, having had 2 non-scores, would keep the same score of 73 at the moment then. So I think, realistically, those two are going to be the main contenders, because Gilhead has got 8 points that he's also got to lose from Paul Ricard, and then Brandon Geitz is a little bit further back himself as well. So I think not quite close enough to really get into contention, unless he has an amazing round at Le Mans at the end of the season then. So it's a real fight to stay in contention. But yeah, I think Grigoletto, Gillison, it's already a case of which of them is going to be able to take advantage here.
Only time will tell, as I say, and only one way to find out. That is to stay tuned with us here at Virtual Motorsports to see this, what's been a fantastic season, come to its conclusion in a couple of weeks' time, or a couple of races' time, rather, in Le Mans. But here, it is round 6 at Interlagos. We are watching Giuseppe Di Noia in the 787 Peugeot. He started the season in the Porsche, swapped over to the French marque. He did that for Spa, but sadly did not finish in Sebring last time out. So is still, that's why he's showing a 0 points. He had points on the board, but with the car change has forfeited those. We'll see if the Peugeot is going to give him any leeway. As you have to do, you have to flirt with the rumble strip on the exit of Mugello, but it always looks quite dramatic from our side, especially when the tail wants to snap on you. Giuseppe Di Noia then, first to get a time on the board. And the opening salvo is going to be a 26-1. to set the timings off. There's Michi Hoyer, recently moved over to the Ferrari, the Falcon squad. That's a 29.7. So exactly as we saw with the GT3s, people need to get their tires and everything up and running before we'll see the ultimate pace come out. There's our championship leader, Fabio Grigoletto, of 31.1. It's fair to say that there's going to be improvement from the Cadillac. There's Dario Yamillo. Oh, the Ferrari is very twitchy, it looks like, coming out of Mugello there. It's, again, if the car lets go there particularly, it's downhill, slightly off camber at absolute full crank. If it lets go there, the barrier is waiting for you.
Indeed it is, and unfortunately for this season, Dario Mulo has had more than his fair share of bad luck, hasn't he? Really, the only standout was that endurance round at Spa, where he got second position despite giving a late challenge to Grigoletto. Wasn't quite able to steal the win away from the Tatum Esports man. So yeah, Mulo has certainly had the pace for better results. Didn't he make a big mistake and spun at Sebring while looking good for maybe top 5, top 6, wasn't he? So yeah, he's certainly made things a little trickier sometimes than they really needed to be. But to be fair, this is a high pressure job, and mistakes are often easy to come by. But yeah, Mulo, as we can see on this second flying lap, a whole second faster in the first sector. So he's done a good job, the Ferrari sportsman, of getting those tires up to temperature. But realistically, if we are looking at the Drivers' Championship hunt, Ferrari Esports will be focused on their Dutch driver, Gillison, who is surely their only realistic hope at the championship. I think Mulo will be looking for personal glory if he can fight for the win, and he's certainly capable of doing so. Remember, last time we were here at the end of the previous season, this is where Mulo's title hopes really fell apart. He had a horrible... I don't think he even got to start the race. I think he actually got disconnected in the final 2 rounds in a row, including at Spa when he was leading right on the final lap, which was particularly heartbreaking. So, yeah, Mulo has had a succession of bad luck, and he's really fought hard to try and turn things around. 124.0 in his second lap, so he's very close to Gillison's pace here. Gillison, though, only 83 thousandths behind Grigoletto at the present moment, and Denoyer in the Peugeot. We've seen the Peugeot actually pretty handy around here last couple of times it's raced, so it's interesting to see Denoyer, who graduated, of course, from the Gold Split at the end of last season, really starting to excel in this qualifying session. So that purple Peugeot could be one to look out for. We've seen Brandon Geitz, of course, win at Silverstone, and he's 4th in the championship, of course, but could Denoyer spring a surprise here himself?
Wow, 23 flat for Denoyer, the new pole time. Here's Johannes Price, just steals that pole away by 25 thousandths. It is a Peugeot parade for the front row, as Ulrich then has started his next time. That Brandon Geitz is the next Peugeot. Again, a big improvement in this lap, purple sector 2. So exactly as you were alluding there, Ed, it looks like the Peugeots are very, very strong here with Sven Gilhard in the Alpine in what is now 4th, as Brandon Geitz has got a 22.8 on the board. Michi Hoyer doing some exploring on the outside of turn 1. What has happened here? So
I think he may just outbraked himself.
It didn't look like he hit anything.
Oh,
lock up on the rear, and round he went. Does he keep it out of the wall? Amazingly, he did. No contact. Oh, it didn't look like it from there. Fair play, Michi Hoyer. That was a clenching moment for him.
Yeah, just completely locked the rear tires, and right at the end of the straight at high speed down the start-finish straight Interlagos, that's not really... There's no good places for that to happen, but that's not one of the top ones you'd pick, really. You want to lock the rears maybe at a hairpin at low speed, but now Grigoletto going even quicker. We actually seen Gillison has gotten himself in between the Peugeots. We've seen this a couple of rounds this season, haven't we? Since the update, really Silverstone onwards, that the Peugeots are really, really strong in qualifying. But come race conditions, it ends up being a little bit of a different story, doesn't it? And the likes of the Cadillacs of Grigoletto, the Ferrari or Gillison tend to come to the fore and pick them off fairly quickly. It tends to be that a lot of our Peugeot drivers are a little less experienced at this level. It's only Brandon Geitz that's been able to get it back onto the top step at the end of one of these races. Grigoletto sets a provisional pole time with a very, very strong first sector there that made the difference. There's Brandon Geitz still in P2 with the fastest middle sector, but a tenth behind the Cadillac of Grigoletto. And by the way, this confirmation of early, Erchan did indeed switch the Cadillac from Spa onwards.
Excellent. I will make a note of that. Speaking of, there is the Falcon number 33.
Winner of this race last season, of course, Erchan.
He was, certainly was. Oh, Mitchie is he's having trouble again, isn't he? That looked like the pit lane entry? So what has happened to Mitchie again? He's getting a fair amount of airtime. Is Mitchie? Well, that's the center S's. So it must have been pit lane exit then. Is it?
Ooh.
Oh yeah, he's trying to catch it, and the wall has been waiting for him. I thought that was the pit lane entry. Actually, I thought he'd spun round on. Oh, that's not Mitchie.
That's Grigoletto.
That's Grigoletto, yes. So, wow, Interlagos is really taking its toll. And this is in the dry, bearing in mind that, as a reminder, the race start is going to be in heavy rain. Oh, wow, just got very twitty under braking going down into turn 4. And then as
that second one looked deliberate. I think he's maybe thinks that he can't go faster than that.
It could well be.
Or he's not got time to do so, maybe.
Oh, no, with less than a minute to go. Yes, the final chance to improve. Arda Erchan getting the new pole time, so it is a Cadillac front row now, 22.704. Now the time to chase, and Arda is going even quicker this time around.
Yeah, Johannes Price, he's also finished, as indeed his Gilhead, and of course Michi Hoyer then is Dario Mulo, only 8th on the grid, so Gillison and Mulo could have quite a lot of ground to make up, especially with Grigoletto, Gillison's main championship rival and championship leader, of course, on the front row, with Erchan just in front of him then. And Erchan, of course, as I said, he just seems to really excel around here. It was in the Cadillac that he won here last season, if I'm not mistaken. So certainly he will be looking to for a replay, essentially. But with the wet conditions at the start, that's going to be interesting. Erchan, he comes into the pit entry. I think he knows that middle sector wasn't going to make him any particularly quicker, but this is a high pressure lap then for both Dario Mulo and his teammate Isaac Gillison. Can they get anywhere near the front row ahead of some of these Peugeots?
But that's the thing, with the wet weather now being a consideration, it's not necessarily setting the expectation based on the qualifying time. It is how well you survive that opening, deluge.
Particularly because we know it's not going to be the whole race, it's just the start where it's going to be wet,
exactly.
and then it should presumably dry out, although we don't know how long that could take, especially if it's really heavy rain for the start. To the line comes Gillison. This doesn't look like a quick lap, and indeed it isn't, but Emulo a little bit faster in the first sector.
Up in sector 1, down in sector 2. Does the Ferrari pick it up? No, he remains in 8th position. Does the Italian? So I think that is everybody, unless Brandon Geitz has got anything.
Nope.
In the no. So the grid then is set for our hypercars. Wow. Well, it is Arda. That's the bottom of it. There we go. I get those very tiny moments to give Nick Domino a hard time. He has plenty of things that he can give me a hard time about.
By tiny moment, you mean the whole broadcasting, yeah.
See, I was going to say he'll hide things just because he can. Arda Erchan then on pole alongside Fredo Cadillac of Fabio Grigoletto. But again, tiny time margins going on here, as we've come to expect from our competitors. Giuseppe De Noia, our lead Peugeot, alongside Johannes Price, has row 2. Row 3, Jimmy Menard snuck in there into the top 5. Jimmy is at a pretty rough season, I think it's fair to say, compared to where we know he can be. He joins Brandon Geitz on row 3. Isaac Gillison down on row 4. Our second place in the championship at the moment, alongside Dario Yemelo. The Ferraris not enjoying the Brazilian twists and turns. Sven Gilhead in the Alpine, alongside Moritz Ulrich in the third Ferrari on row 5. Row 6, Jenny Simoncic in the Sol Valkyrie, alongside Rafael Bila on 12th, and then Mitty Hoyer with his difficulties rounds out the entire grid. Well, you can see for yourself what heavy rain looks like here in Interlagos, as it's going to be
20 minutes until the sun comes out, apparently.
Oh my! Out of an 80-minute race. So the first weather slot, the starting one, is what we were told, heavy rain, and then it is going to be dry. But exactly as I was saying, we don't know how quickly the track is going to dry out. It is going to be who is going to be hero or zero when they get the pit lane stretch.
Yeah, and this is sort of a nightmare situation for the drivers in a way, because sort of when it goes dry to wet, essentially, it's just a case of how long can you stay out before it gets too bad, because ideally the dry tires are the faster than the wets, no matter what. Whereas in this situation, you're going to get a few people gambling, trying to go on the dries as early as possible. But if the track's not dried out enough, it could be like driving on ice, essentially. So this is where the drivers and their strategists are really going to earn their money, essentially. Well, maybe at the end of the season when they get paid, of course. But yeah, this is a really, really interesting start. Of course, Erchan, winner of this event last season. Remember, Grigolato had that hugely scary moment where he tripped over, I think it was Michel Rodriguez, and then had to just scrabble back into the points to get enough points to just seal the championship in the end from Simoncic. But now on the front row, he's really got to be careful, because Grigolato's the one with most to lose here in this scenario. Whereas Gillison and Mulo down to 7th and 8th, they will just be going for it and hoping the Peugeot spin in front of them. Meanwhile, Alexis Hunt and Whitehead is going to be all-out battle between those two for the lead and the championship.
You can almost feel the nervousness going on. The windscreen wipers going like an excited Jack Russell Terrier's tail. But yeah, this is going to be really, really fascinating. They always say the wet weather is the equalizer. We will see who has got the setup right. And also, people may well have gambled on more of a wet weather setup and getting an advantage early and hoping they can hold on to it. But or they've gone for a dry weather setup and hope they can hang on to it in this comparatively short but long enough wet weather session. Right, the field are rolling towards the lines in Arda Erchan, Fabio Grigoletto leading our hypercars, Alexis Hunt and Luke Whitehead leading our GT3s. They're going to be a little bit more comfortable in the wet weather, and away we go then. Lots of side-by-sides, 4, 5 wide, God knows how many wide. Let's see who survives into the center S's for the first time in anger. Oh, no, there's a big moment. Is that, who was that? Was that Price that's gone for a bit of a spin?
It was, yes.
It was.
I think Gillison made contact with Denoyer and sent Denoyer into press. So Isaac Gillison just losing control in the middle of the center as well, really aggressively diving up the inside in the first corner. Oh dear, so Malgera drops to the back of the GT3 field. What's also happened is Manisha has made a great start from 4th on the grid. A newly signed Bristol Esports man, he's ahead of Luke Whitehead. Oh, good. Denoyer sideways again, touching the back of Grigoletto. So lucky to survive that. Gillison takes advantage and gets up the inside too. Into Ferradura, the horseshoe. They're still side by side. The Ferraris have made great progress here. But yeah, Gillison will be, or could be clenching his teeth after that early contact with Denoyer. Denoyer spins round. Oh, and so too does Brandon Gates. Almost in synchronized swimming there. They're both stuck. It's like a car park here.
Oh no, Denoyer can't go anywhere. He's trying to move and just nudges the back of the Peugeot. There's just not enough room for him to get going. Now they get themselves underway. The GT3s have got the greatest seats in the house. They're just kind of minding their own business and getting past the hypercars at this stage. But our GT3s is still Heron from Whitehead, Manisha up into third, as you've said. Oh, and now you've got, is that Price that's trying to make his way through the GT3 field, trying to mind his own business in the Peugeot.
Oh, goodness, yeah, the 805, that would be Price then. As Erchan, as expected, 1.3 seconds into Grigolato, sets the fastest lap of the race. But Grigolato doing battle with Gillison. Gillison trying to steal second position from him. Grigolato goes a bit wide into the center S. And here we go, Chris, our two title rivals side by side. And Gillison squeezes through, but can he get the exit? Oh, he holds up Grigolato. Round the outside comes Yamulo in the second of our Ferraris and nearly making contact again. Oh, my goodness. And here comes Gearhead as well in the Alpine getting involved. But our two Ferrari teammates cannot afford to fight each other. Gillison needs to disappear up the road now.
Oh, Dario Yamello, he had the momentum there.
Oh, here comes Gearhead.
Oh, that's a bit of a moment there as well, as we see Denoyer trying to make his way through the last of the GT3s. That is Grigoletto trying to pressure for back it up in the third. Yamello demoted again. Oh, look how uncomfortable these cars are. They are squiggling all over the place. Sven Gillhead there in the Alpine. So he's ready to pick up any pieces if it does go wrong. This is going to be fabulous. Arda Erchan is comparatively checked out by 1.5 seconds up front for the lead Cadillac. He's quite happy with the fact that everyone behind him is fighting. And that's Grigoletto tiny bit too deep. We have a replay here. What have we got? So this is Denoyer in the
Denoyer and
first.
Geitz losing it then.
Yeah, oh, this will be where they spin, and there it is. Oh, was he pushed? Well, Geitz wasn't. I think Geitz did that on his own, but was there a tiny bit of impact on the tail of
I
Denoyer?
thought Simicic might have touched Geitz there, but I think you're right. The Valkyrie just steered clear.
As we are now looking at, so that's got to be Simicic, as he is our sole Valkyrie in the race, trying to get his way past Jimmy Menard for 6th position. Aston Martin on the inside line, Peugeot on the outside. That's not going to yield anything for the Slovenian driver. Right behind him is Rafael Biela, as in the Ferrari, trying to make his way through. No dice at the moment. Oh, the amount of spray that's being jacked up in the air. Defensive posture for Menard. Simicic's going to try around the outside into turn 4. He gets it done, but does he go to No, he tried it, but ran out of road, and that's going to cost him a position. Rafael Biela is there. Oh, sideways on the exit. Obviously, the lager descent into the lakes. How apt is that? Oh, nearly impact between the Ferrari and the Aston. Simic, I think, has to bow out of that one. Biela, brave move on the outside of
He's going for another one on Jimmy Menard. And Menard, who would have thought with the abysmal finishing record that Jimmy Menard has in Platinum Split this season, retiring from half the races so far, he'd be the one Peugeot not to spin in the hypercar class in these early phases. He's doing a fantastic job, isn't he, the French?
Yeah, so very true. So very true. So replay again. That was Geitz. We didn't quite see whether he was pushed into. He did snap very suddenly.
Well, he was pushed on the exit there, certainly by Denoyer.
You can see why. So Brandon's actually waiting for a gap, then gets nudged from behind, so then readjusts his. Absolutely right. Completely correct way of trying to rejoin the track, not just barreling in front of the GT3s. As Remy Delorme is trying to make a move on Artem Manisha, the Corvette. Oh, again, getting the tail wagging.
So Manisha's fallen back a bit because Whitehead and Leiden have got past him here.
Yes, indeed. Oh, well, Whitehead started in second, so he's maintained that position.
Well, he was briefly ahead of Whitehead at the end of the first lap, and I think then he's fallen back. And now Delorme, you could see the Corvette really twitching. It does not enjoy these conditions compared to the drive we saw in qualifying. And now Remy Delorme for Go Team Racing. Feeling a bit more at home here is the Frenchman, looking for a way through into P4 here. Remy Delorme has not had a great season in terms of results, but his pace, his class has still shone through. He's going to the outside. Manisha defends the inside into the center S and forces the Lexus man to go the long way round. And Remy Delorme has to back out there, and that's going to allow Bessier, another of our French drivers, eager to get involved in this one.
Yeah, look at this queue of cars. Here's Bessier, then Schindler, then Alexander Lay in his new toys in the Mustang at the back of this particular group. Now let's see how they're going to shuffle around. Not quite. They remain as they are for the time being. There is the, as mentioned, the now Hoplite branded Mustang. The
leaders in hypercar. Gillison is close right in on Erchan. He's taken the rest of the pack with him.
That lead for Arda Erchan has gone in the Cadillac, and there they are, the Falcon car leading the two Ferraris, Gillison and Yellow. Dario Yamillo will be definitely enjoying this. Like you say, that second place in Spa being the vast majority of his points haul this season so far, and getting the fastest lap in these conditions. That lap time is coming down, so big snap there from Gillison, trying to avoid the back of the Cadillac more than anything else.
Grigoletto also really struggling in these conditions. He's lost about a second a lap to Gilhead, who's just gotten through now as well. So the Alpine up to P4, and Grigoletto can see his main championship rival now fighting for the lead against Erchan here. So this is a really, really tense moment because we're looking at Gillison trying to chew into that lead. As round the outside of Jimmy Menard goes Rafael Biela into Pico de Pato, and side by side for the lead. Erchan gets the better exit then as they go uphill into Ferradura and Gillison is just held back. That could allow Emulo to become part of this battle as well, but Gillison refusing to yield as they come uphill into the infield section. Will he be able to muscle his way up the inside into Pinorino? Oh my goodness, the 21 switches, tries to get the better exit. It'll be the outside for Biko de Pato once again, and Erchan trying to make sure he's always on the inside here, and Emulo waiting patiently for his chance. But there we go, Gillison completes the move, and the Dutchman is into the lead. That's exactly where he needs to be. 1 hour, 11 minutes still to go, and the lead is going to continue to be very, very hotly contested here.
Yeah, that was incredible. Almost the whole lap side by side, or certainly the twisty part of the lap side by side in the wet. No contact between either of them. Brilliantly driven between Isaac Gillison and Arda Erchan. Now Arda Erchan having to defend against the second Ferrari of Dario Yemelo. And Sven Gilhead in the Alpine not far behind. Well, Sven Gilhead actually getting the fastest lap of the race in the hypercars, 1:39.1. Oh, and then goes too deep. It's the Falcon Alpine.
Too fast, yes.
Yes, too quick indeed. So Arda Erchan then, has he got the pace disadvantage over Isaac Gillison? Well,
this could be the difference in those who've gone for a slightly more compromised wet setup and those who've gone for the dry setup. Of course, it has stopped raining a bit, but the moisture, with it still being overcast, is still all over the track surface here. So if you are Erchan or Grigoletta in the Cadillacs, you're really hoping it dries up quickly, whereas the Ferraris are absolutely adoring this at the moment. As here's Delorme, we about to see Manish all fishtailing out of the final corner as they go uphill through Jun Chao, and it is the Go Team man that has got the inside and has got surely a way through into that pole position, unless Manisha can get brave around the outside in this replay.
Well, let's see what happens then. The Corvette managing to get the horses galloping. We didn't quite see how that ended out, but the Corvette is still ahead. He did, yeah, still ahead of Remy Delorme. Does look like it's quite a queue of cars forming behind the Corvette. So the Corvette's got the power and the traction when he needs it. Although saying that, he's getting a bit of a tail wag coming through Curva del Sol, turn 3, and just he's got the power at the right time to be able to defend against the onslaught of pressure right behind him. Fair play to Artem Manisha for that, as they are coming into Desida del Lago once again. So the rain is due to at least be a factor in this race for a minimum of 10 more minutes, as Isaac Gillison now gets the fastest lap of the race up front by around 0.4 of a second over Arda Erchan. But exactly as Ed was saying, it's how quickly the water that has fallen is going to dissipate, and when you make that all crucial change onto the dry tyres. We will have to see as we now look at Moritz Ulrich on the back of Yanni Simoncic with Johannes Price in tow.
Yeah, Price recovering well after that incident right at the first corner. I don't think it was really his fault being sort of the unfortunate victim there, but he's up the inside now of Ulrich in the Ferrari, and Moritz Ulrich is beaten back here. And Moritz Ulrich is another of our drivers that's changed to the Ferrari mid-season. There's all we see behind Delorme, somebody going very wide. It was Bessier there trying to hold back Patrick Schindler and Alexander Lay. So Bessier loses a little bit of ground to the Delorme-Manisha P4 fight. And meanwhile, Alexis Hern continuing to set fastest laps of the race in the GT3 class as he pulls away from Whitehead. So Alexis Hern, he was on pole in the dry, but he seems to be even quicker in the wet than if anything. So Whitehead is really starting to worry about Thomas. Actually, he's dropped Leiden as well. So yeah, Whitehead and Hern are very much in a class of their own, and Hern in a subclass of his own. Yeah.
Alexander Lay was having a bit of a sniff there in the Off-Light Mustang on Patrick Schindler coming down into turn 1, but did not get that one done. Then you got Kolosov in the silver Lamborghini right behind. And again, look at how defensive Artem Manisha is having to go. Coming down into turn 4, that's going to push him a little bit wide. Does Remy Delorme have the traction? He's going to nose ahead. But we've seen this already several times. Oh! Now Remy Delorme had to give a bit of space back to Artem Manisha for that one. Artem was going to have the inside line, but does Remy Delorme have the momentum on the outside of Ferragina, outside of La Regina? Can he get it done? Yes, he can. Brave move in the wet. Can he slow it down coming up into turn 8? Yes, he does. That's 4th in the hands of Remy Delorme. Brilliantly driven.
Yeah, there we go. The 2025 VEC Hypercar champion there, Remy Delorme, really showing his driving skills. And now hope to charge up Lexus after the Whitehead-Leiden fight, essentially. And Thomas Leiden in the Mercedes next in his sights. Meanwhile, Erchan now starting to hold up Emilio. Gillison 1.4 seconds up the road here. So Falcon Esports, now they know. Oh, here we go. Look how close Gillard is getting to the back of Dario Milo here. So Falcon Esports, who controlled this race with all three of their cars, essentially, in the early phase of the races. Oh, yellow flags. I think that's Johannes Price, who was recovering so well, has had some incident while chasing down Simičić here. Here we go. There they are, side by side. So what has happened here, Chris?
Well, we will see if the replay is going to do as it's told. No, technical trouble with the replay there. Apologies. We will get back to it. So, well, here it is again. If we can, doesn't seem to want to tell us.
I have to play a crime scene investigation here. So I would guess that Price has had some sort of collision with Simičić. Here we go.
Well, let's see if you're right. So Simičić in the spray. He's going to come across. And there was not a lot of room for the Peugeot. He was a bit of a tipped into a spin there, potentially.
There was a bit of side-on contact there, but then the spin seemed to happen with Price getting a bit too hot on the throttle. So, I don't know. Yene will say that was tough but fair. And Johannes Price will say that's the second time in the race I've been pushed off.
Yeah.
Well,
so, yeah. We'll let the stewards worry about that one. And there is Simičić then trying to fend off the advances of Moritz Ulrich.
Or is that Michi Hoyer up the inside?
It is indeed. Michi Hoyer, the 110 Ferrari in the Falcon colours, manages to muscle his way past Ulrich, or does he? No, they're in a drag racing up the hill to Ferragura, the pair of Ferraris. Michi Hoyer, the German driver, trying to do outside manoeuvre. Has worked part. He's nosed ahead, but can he get it done into turn 8? No! Oh, he gets a punch in the face from Moritz Ulrich. No, Hoyer is not having that. Now he's got the inside line for Peronino, turn 9. Still arguing for their bit of Brazilian real estate. Michi Hoyer's not letting go of this. Again, we've seen this several times. Now outside line of Pico de Pato, and Michi Hoyer has got it. Well, that was determination. Other than that knock at the beginning of the sequence, well driven from both of them.
Yeah, meanwhile, in GD3, Christian Maguire briefly set the fastest lap. I think he's pit, hasn't he, in the Lexus, which is why he's fallen to the back of the field. And he briefly took the fastest lap before Alexis Hearn stole it back off him. So the track continuing to dry ever so slightly, so that's why the lap times are getting quicker. So I'm not necessarily sure a fresh set of wets would be the ideal strategy at the moment. So we see Hamadani and Heno side by side. This is the battle for P11 in GD3 as we see Gillison coming through the lap. The traffic here. Brandon Geitz in P11 now takes the fastest lap off of Isaac Gillison in the hypercar class.
You are indeed correct. There was indeed a pit stop there for Margera, and I'm surprised.
So down now on the on Hearn. So no wonder Hearn was going for fastest lap, because he knew he wanted to put Margera a lap down rather than just have him steal the fastest lap off him, disappear into the distance.
Oh no!
Or either side of Hamadani. It's not Hamadani, that's Heno, sorry, that they're going either side. There's Hamadani or Erchan desperately trying to hold on against Emilio. He's having to take really risky dives here, and that could allow Gilhead to get involved as well. So Emilio in the middle of a Falcon Esports breaded sandwich here, and he's going to try and dive up the inside into Pico de Pato. There won't be a lot of space given to him. Erchan, the Turkish man, really seems to want to get his elbows out in these conditions. He's seen one Ferrari breeze past him. He won't let a second do it.
Oh, I've got to give it. Dario Yamalo has just hung on to the outside line, and he's going to try and box Arda Erchan into the GT3s. No, they're going to go either side of them once again. That's Kolosov that they're just coming past now, and they remain in exactly the same order. That's incredible, and with pretty much negligible.
Oh, look for Gilhead here. Gilhead is lining up a move on Emilio, but with all the GT3s, it's not worth taking the risk, I think, Chris.
Well, Yamalo wasn't having any of that. Slams the door shut on the 44 Falcon Alpine. Wasn't having that at all. Oh, you saw there, Gilhead has a bit of momentum advantage, but Yamalo shut the doors. Johannes Price sets the new fastest lap. That lap time continuing to fall as the track is drying out slowly but surely. But these three are just glued together. They're all fighting for their position whilst navigating the GT3s, and no one has hit anyone. in this group. That is absolutely incredible. Yemelo go for an outside maneuver. Is that going to pay off? Normally it wouldn't, but we've seen it pay off a few times. A bit of impact between the two. Now the Falcon cars are together, but Yemelo, he's going to squeeze past Arderchan, is he? It's not quite done. Arderchan hanging on, but he can't quite do it. Bit of a tail slapper from Daniel Yemelo. But he has the Ferrari, has managed to complete the move.
There's Leiden, though, in the way.
Oh, no! And Thomas Leiden doing nothing wrong in the third place Mercedes. But, probably had a thought to try and help his teammates. But Arderchan, is he going to try and squeeze on the inside line coming up to Jin Xiao? Can't get it done. The momentum still belonging to Yemelo. So the Ferrari now but second, but Arderchan's trying to relieve him of it again.
Yeah, the battle continuing here. A little bit of miscommunication there as they go side by side down the run for the start finish straight. It's still going to be a mule up the inside. Can Erchan do the long way around? No, he cannot. And now Gillard is going to be a bit impatient here. He's going to think, come on, Arda, I'm the one higher up in the standings, third in the standings to be exact. You got to help me out here and not fight too hard. But Erchan is thinking about personal glory here. He's stuck right to the back of a Mula like glue. Dario Milo defends. There's Luke Whitehead on the outside, trying not to get involved whatsoever. Erchan just puts his nose into the outside down the Red Raposta, but there's no way through there. It's such an intense battle. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Rigoletto is having to defend against Jimmy Menard and Rafael Bila. So luckily he's been able to hold on so far and limit the damage in this early stint, Rigoletto, but he's fallen 2.8 seconds behind this fight essentially. So even as they're squabbling around, Rigoletto is still losing time to them in these conditions.
Oh, Brandon Guides on the outside of Michi Hoyer. Is he going to squeeze past the Ferrari? As Yannick Simoncic in the Valkyrie gets very side by side. Still, the duo right behind Simoncic is going on. Brandon Guides has lost that momentum. Michi Hoyer with no space at all. Guides banzais the outside of both of them. Gets the nudge on the Aston Martin. How's going to get the inside? Is he for Mugello? Then he's going to try the inside for Jun Xiao. And that is Thomas Leiden. That is kind of wrong place, wrong time for Yannick Simoncic. So Brandon Guides gets through. Now Michi Hoyer is going to try and make Yannick Simoncic's day even worse. And right behind them, Johannes Price is joining this squabble.
Oh, a little bit of contact there as, that's Hoyer trying to go through the middle there. Simoncic still right behind. They're going to try and go through wide into turn one. Brandon Guides tries to go a little bit late on the brakes up the inside. Yerne is going to be stranded on the outside and nearly loses position to Johannes Price as well as Hoyer getting a little bit sideways there. So this is a crazy fight, all just for 8th position at the moment. But the Peugeot still fairly quick in these conditions here, and they're giving Hoyer and Simoncic a very tough time.
That they certainly are, as Johannes Price closes in on the back of Michi Hoyer. We now look at this battle that Artem Benicia was voted down to the 5th, was 4th earlier on, but Remy Delorme managed to get past him. Eventually, it took him a while, but now Marin Bessier is trying to make the Corvette stay a little bit worse. Patrick Schindler is in that mixture as well in the Falcon Lexus. But at the moment, they are holding station, but still all the pressure on the Corvette's shoulders, as we now have got. That is Luke Whitehead that just wants to vanish right now, is in the field of hypercars. Everybody just about managing to hold on to their own bit of real estate. They're still arguing for the same spots we were looking at earlier. That's Michi Hoyer, Johannes Price, and Yannick Simoncic now at the back of that group.
Yeah, there we go. Margera again, being almost a lap down, does set the fastest lap, 145.160, but we're still a long way off even thinking about the dry tires there. As for Whitehead, the only small bit of consolation for Luke Whitehead is that Alexis Hurt will have to be dealing with the very same hypercars a couple of seconds up the road from him then. So it's not just him that will be losing time, having to let them through essentially. As now we see inter-team battle here. Of course, different cars being used by these two, the Corvette, the Cadillac for Arda Erchan, and the Alpine for Sven Gielhed here. And Sven, of course, has been very, very consistent this season, hasn't he? And he's really starting to give Arda a bit of a battle for that final podium position. But of course, you can see Emulo starting to pull away, and Gillison 5 seconds up the road is very much pulled away. As you can see there, we are getting very, very close. The windscreen wipers have stopped moving, so the little rain that was falling is starting to cease here. And we're getting close to sort of mixed conditions in terms of overcast. And then in about 35 minutes, the sun will well and truly come out, and the track should start to dry really, really quickly. So everybody's really going to be wanting to time their pit stop to change tires with their fuel stop, essentially, and virtual energy slot for that matter as well. So we might see 1 or 2 extending and a couple risking early for the dry tires then. But with that said, I've just been informed that dinner is ready, and I might go and take a 10-minute break, eat it, and come back and miss as little of the race as possible as Yannis Price is lining up Michi Hoyer for P9 here.
Or you go deal with the important matters of sustenance. I will hold the fort here as Isaac Gillison is continuing to increase his lead up front in the hypercars. We focus on Giuseppe Di Noia staring at the back of Yannis Simoncic as Brandon Geitz gets the new fastest lap with 34.2. Track conditions continuing to dry and continuing to improve, so the lap times doing so. Now, it all depends on how quickly the track conditions become close to dry. I mean, at the moment, we're absolutely nowhere near it. The GT3s were, where were they? I think in the 20s when it came to qualifying, and the hypercars were obviously in the sort of lower part of that time frame. So we're not close to the qualifying times yet, but it all comes down to how quickly the water can dissipate. If the pit stops are still happening, i.e. the pit stop strategy is doesn't time right, then people could have to come in twice. What has happened here with Fabio Guglielmetto on the back of Christian Margera? Well, Alexis is minding his own business for the time being. Jimmy Menard in there, so not sure what triggered that one, but either way. Oh, hello, Alexander Lay. Could have been a lag moment. So, in fairness to production, they get notified of a potential yellow flag or incident, but not always the case of an incident. It could be a lag moment where, or whatever it is, it didn't appear to be an awful lot going on. Dario Yamalo now taking the fastest hypercar lap. We're now looking at 34.1s for the hypercar class, as Artem Manish has just spent all day defending so far against what must feel like the entire world on his shoulders. So he's hanging on to 5th position as best he can. The spray is getting noticeably lighter, so the track conditions are continuing to improve. So yeah, as Ed was saying, it's going to be all about who pulls the trigger on the dry tires. Nowhere near it yet. Alexis Heron in the lead of the GT3s gets that fastest lap just from I think it was Luke Whitehead just ahead. Now is Marin Bessier going to try and make the move on Artem Manisha. Also, another thing to bear in mind, as the Mustang has a look on the inside line of the Corvette, coming down into turn 1, noses ahead. Manisha's still there. He's going to have the inside for turn 2, bounces over, loses the momentum, and that's going to be position lost for the Corvette. Now, bearing in mind that whilst the pecking order has been established in the wet conditions, that does not mean that that same pecking order will persist if people have stuck with a dry setup. Bear in mind that most of the race is in dry, non-raining conditions at very least. Oh, is that going to be too deep for Bessier? Is that going to give Manisha the opportunity to try and attack back? He's going to alongside Alexander Lay, having a look at Patrick Schindler, but Artem Manisha could not get the overlap coming up into Ferradura. Right behind them, Mats Kolosov has lost a position to Alexander Hanna. Oh, is that round the outside then? That becomes the inside for Patrick Schindler on Artem Manisha. That was very close between the Lexus and the Corvette, but Manisha's going to have the next inside line and will hang on to it for the time being. They're still fending off all the advances in the world. Alexander Lay trying to get past Patrick Schindler, but no dice for the Oplite Mustang. Remain where they are for the time being. Alexis Heron continuing to stretch his legs up front, little by little. There's a few hundredths here of a tenth or so there. Luke Whitehead snatches that fastest lap back again in the Mustang. This battle here, absolutely fabulous for what is now fifth position rather, behind Marin Bessier. It was been fifth position for a while, but it was behind Artem Manisha. Marin Bessier has now got the position, has not been able to break away from the Corvette. Bessier, Manisha, Schindler, and Lay in this particular group. You still see the cars getting very, very uncomfortable coming through the center S's and then through Curva del Sol. As now Alexander Lay sizes up Patrick Schindler. No, Schindler now sizes up Manisha. No, that's not going to pay off either. Alex Gillison. Isaac Gillison. Alex Gillison. Long lost cousin. Isaac Gillison taking the fastest lap of the race in the lead hypercar Ferrari. Hypercar field pretty much settled down now. GT3's continuing to provide us a fantastic fight here for fifth position. What can be done? Also bear in mind that the tyres are going to be feeding quite second-hand, especially as the track warms up and dries out. The sun now starting to come out, so that dry line is going to become less favorable for these wet weather tyres, and they are going to be very, very worn. Right behind this group, you can see that is Alexander Hanna and Vladislav Kolosov. Hope I'm pronouncing that somewhere correct. Apologies if not. But yeah, they are really closing in to make that a six-way argument. We look at Fabio Grigoletto, our championship leader, looking at, well, he's defending against Jimmy Menard. Now, if the race were to finish now, this will be the first time that Fabio Grigoletto is not finished on the podium, and that's a challenge there from Artem Manisha. No, that's Patrick Schindler, sorry, challenging Artem Manisha. So the Lexus gets the inside line. Don't think Manisha's going to have anything to do, anything he can say about it. He'll have the inside line, but again, he's bouncing over the curbs. It's going to cost him momentum. Alexander Lay doesn't want to lose any time here. Tries to get the initially outside line for Curva del Sol, doesn't get it done. And on the exit of turn 3, can't quite get the momentum, can't quite get the overlap he needs, and has to remain where he is. But Artem Manisha demoted now down into 7th place in the Corvette. Brandon Geitz now gets the fastest lap in the Peugeot in the 8th place hypercar. You can see on track the dry line is definitely developing with 50 minutes and change of this race. Everybody is going to have to come into the pit stop, but it's going to be down to how the track conditions are, how the tyres are. Oh, big snap of oversteer from Alexander Lay. He caught it very, very well coming out of turn 8. Oh, flash of the lights there from Grigoletto against Jimmy Menard. So was there a bit of a touch there? Was there something the Italian did not like from Jimmy Menard there? Quite see it. Let's see if the replay is going to catch it. So Grigoletto dives to the inside, then jumps back onto the racing line. But I would imagine trying to cool his tyres down. Is that going to force him too wide? Oh, that was a slide there. Oh, and there was potentially impact there, which sent Fabio Grigoletto a very long way off. That's what the flash of the lights was for. Oh, no, that's Maurizio Ulrich that's gone off the road. The 218 Ferrari, long way off the road there. These are going to be where the tyres are giving up, as Julian Hanno has set the fastest GT3 lap. Now, what's happened here? Oh! So that was a recovering Michi Hoyer, and then a slight tap on the 288 car has sent the Ferrari around. But instead of spinning the wheels, he's decided to take a slower orbit and bounce over the grass. And that's Manisha against Alexander Lay. Has there been a change then? It looks like the Oplite Mustang has finally managed to gain the position, gets the inside for turn 1. And that's going to force yet again. Oh, Artem Manisha didn't commit to that line where he's bounced over the apex a few times and bowed out of that one. So that's Manisha now down into 8th place. That's a shame that the race is kind of undoing itself for him. He's right up there in 4th and defending brilliantly in the early stages. Has now rewriting itself somewhat. There's the Falcon pair of Art Urchan and Sven Gilhead in the Cadillac and Alpine respectively. Oh, catching this big group of GT3s. They're all very experienced on how to navigate the traffic. So we look at Sven. Yep, managed to work his way through fairly nicely. Fabio Grigoletto now fending off the advances of Brandon Guides. Oh no, there's a pair between them. There's Brandon Guides.
Oh no.
Grigoletto's just, oh, what a time for you to come back there, Ed. But oh dear, the Peugeot trying to defend. And, well, I mean,
it was Grigoletto ahead though, wasn't it? Because Menard had just picked him off, and then there was a collision with Guides. So yeah, Grigoletto's has not had the pace, and that's created this situation as they go either side of the Mustang of Niclas Lemoyne. And yeah, Grigoletto using just a little bit more to make sure he pulls ahead there. But yeah, it's really a race of Grigoletto going backwards, and he goes way too deep into turn one. Up the inside goes Brandon Guides, and look behind. Johannes Price now is going to immediately follow through as well. Grigoletto dropping like a stone.
He's letting frustration get the better of him, and he's overdriving the car.
And he knows Gillison is leading as well, his main championship rival, so maybe a bit of desperation.
Well, I mean, Guides was nose ahead, but squeezed Grigoletto too much to the apex. And then, sadly, as Guides was spinning, just collected Grigoletto on the...
How much damage have they both taken from that one? Guides has had his fair share of knocks and spins in this one.
Yeah, and how knackered are these tyres by now? As you know, we are approaching the halfway stage as we look at Marin Bessier and Patrick Schindler arguing for 5th position, as Margera continues to set the pace, but sadly the last running GT3. Now, what I was alluding to earlier, Ed, is whilst the track is continuing to dry, there is still a lot of moisture out there. But these tyres are not going to hold on much longer, so are we going to have to see multiple pit stops from people?
Yeah, it might also be people having to pit just a little bit early for just to change tyres, and then having to do the fuel stop later, which obviously is not ideal because you're having to make another trip in the pit lane later on. So yeah, you can see the dry line emerging now very, very clearly as Gielhed is resumed his attacks on teammate Erchan here as Falcon Esports dispute 3rd position in this race. Jimmy Menard behind as well. What's the gap there? About 6 seconds or so. So they can't be too comfortable here. They may need to strategically figure out what they're going to do with both of these cars here, because if they fight too hard, it could allow Menard to become a big threat in that Peugeot. And we've seen the Peugeot really cook over a single lap, but quite difficult to hold on to in these conditions. Menard has driven a pretty cracking race so far, especially taking advantage of that mistake from Grigoletto to get through into P5. You can see there the red and black machine just in the background there. So yeah, Gielhed will start to feeling a little bit frustrated with Erchan in front of him. And certainly Erchan has been quick enough to make himself a problem here. So it's a good problem for Vulcan Esports to have in a way, as our two Peugeots are lining up ahead of Grigoletto here. It looks like Price wants to have a go at Guides for P7 here.
Well, we'll see how the Peugeots, the flyby Peugeots, sort this one out. But Jarrett continuing to...
He's got the freshest tyres, of course, because he pit fairly early doors and the race committed to an extra set of wet tyres, I believe. So...
yeah, well, no, he didn't. He pitted, but he didn't change tyres.
Oh, okay. So he's just got really clear air then.
Yeah. So I double-checked the pit stop earlier. He did not... I'm guessing he had damage. He pitted at the end of lap 1, but did not change tyres. As a result of it, as we see Thomas Leiden staying very much out of the way of the flying Peugeots. Then we are going to have to see drivers kind of finding a bit of water to stop cooking the tyres till such time as they choose to change them. So that dry line very, very well established, but there's so much damp everywhere else that switching to those dry tyres, and yeah, right on cue, Fabio Grigoletto having to get off that dry line just to get some water, to get some cooling going on those tyres. This is going to be such a gamble on when they pull the trigger.
Yeah, it is going to be really, really risky. You see Erchan has fallen about 4 seconds now behind Demulo while defending against the Gielhed. As you see Grigoletto, if anything, he might be starting to worry about De Neuer in another Peugeot coasting up to the back of him as well, only a second behind now, as we see Bessier defending against the similar Mustang of Alexandre Lay here, and Lay for Opelite Sim Racing trying to put pressure on the reigning GD3 champion Bessier. We've not made too much. It's been a bit of an up and down season for Marin, but he is in P4 at the moment in the standings, of course, as Gillison in the lead of Hypercar, sets another fastest lap, 1:32.2, and that shows we're getting closer and closer to the crossover point. Nobody wants to be the guinea pig who does it, changes the tires first, and then has to go through those awful couple of laps where you just got no grip whatsoever, because with the update, the tires will be cold anyway. It's so difficult to heat up tires on a track that's still a little bit too damp as well.
Bessier continuing to keep the Oplite Mustang of Alexandre Lay at bay for the time being.
Good run by Lay.
It is, but he's going to be forced to the outside line. Oh, just thundering past the goes the Ferrari, but yeah, that's looked a fair. Well, the Ferrari was thundering past and then flew off the road, but that looked a fairly straightforward move for Alexandre Lay. Marin Bessier may well have simply opted to surrender that one. You know realistically who you're supposed to be fighting, and Marin may have decided that discretion is the better part of valor for that one. That's Alexandre Lay up into 6th.
Could also be that he knew he just didn't quite have the straight line speed at the end of the straight there. So, yeah. And the other part is if you know someone's going to pass you, it can be an opportunity to just save a bit of fuel and make sure you can go maybe even a lap or two longer than them. It can be advantageous, especially if you've got a drying track and you want to be pitting for the dry tires a bit later so that you don't have to wait for the track conditions to catch up to the tires, essentially. As now we see all a bit wide from Brandon Geitz, and Johannes Price is well and truly upon him as Denoyer has hit trouble in 10th position, so that's not going to help him catch Grigoletto whatsoever. Simoncic gets through, so mistake coming out of Pico de Pato and downhill, I think.
Was it a little bit too trigger happy on the gas?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was mid-corner when the tail just let go. I would have think that is probably
doing Peugeot things, I think.
Well, I suspect that is very hot rear tires.
There was
Ooh, that was close. It certainly looked it from here. I think these are tires have absolutely had it, and there's just nothing left to try and bite. It's riding on board then with the Aston Martin. We'll see how close that realistically was. It certainly looked a little bit across.
Oh.
It wasn't quite as close as we thought. Yannis just did see it. It's
more scary for Denoyer for the Aston Martin just appear on the scene right at the last minute there.
Very true. We have another replay here. Oh, the Peugeots. Price and Geitz. What's happened here? Is this Price getting past Geitz, is it?
Believe so. Geitz just on the outside here. Short line for Price. Is he going to be able to get it done on the brakes? Yes, he is. Will they make the corner? Price is still on a bit of the wetter part of the track, but there we go. Completes the move fairly comfortably in the end. So Johannes Price up to P7 then. So it's been such an up and down race, but it's not done yet. Now it is Brandon Geitz's turn to go up the inside on the long run through Junchow down the start finish straight. So the number 7 Peugeot, our man 4th in the championship, or trying to retake that position. You see Grigoletto struggling to keep up with both of them in the background in that number 1 Cadillac. Then for Grigoletto, this race has turned into one of damage limitation, because at the moment Gillison is looking to take several chunks out of Grigoletto's championship lead. It'd be 25 points to Gillison, down in 9th, only 2 to Grigoletto. So, and he's only about overall in the championship he was about 23 behind. 27 behind, isn't he? Because 100. Oh, and there we go. That looks like Denoyer in the wall, and I think the rear wing may have fallen off as well in the impact there. So Giuseppe Denoyer's race has come to an end as he tried to catch up to Simoncic. Cut the oh no, he didn't, actually kept it on track, and then he's had a separate there we go. The rears are just completely spinning up and finding no traction whatsoever.
Yeah, that's one of those moments you've committed to it and you know that you've left it too long. He's still sat there, so he's doing the Fernando Alonso. He's got the deck chair out and is opting to go spectator. Oh my goodness, there's Kolosov in the Lamborghini that's very much involved in a big old group here. We have had the first pit stop that's taken place. Niclas Lemoyne. Oh, that's getting very up close and personal for Artem Manisha, trying to keep Kolosov at bay. That Corvette is continuing to fall down the field, and then right behind Kolosov is Julian Hanno. So very, very close. Still no impact between them for the most part. And Denoyer has, as we somewhat thought he would, has retired the car. So our first on-track retirement has gone the way of Giuseppe Denoyer.
Makes sense, by the way, for Niclas Lemoyne, given how far behind he was. Oh no, actually no, it was Margera that was really far behind. But Lemoyne, I think, was still maybe 10th, 11th, 12th or something like that, wasn't he? So it sort of makes sense. If you're feeling bold, you think you can get a huge undercut, because the track, it looks pretty dry, but of course you can see that dry line significantly drier than the wet stuff around it. But of course, the problem for Lemoyne is he's got to spend a lap or two sort of getting the tires up to temperature, and then he can really, so you can see that first lap was at 2 minutes 48. That's including, of course, the time he spent stationary in the pits. It's this first sector here that's going to be really crucial now. Schindler sets fastest lap in P5 in his Lexus. So the Lexus car's working well, actually, on the wet tires on this drying track, because Delorme is right behind Thomas Lydon. You can see him in the background there, almost about to lap Niclas Lemoyne here.
No tires, no new tires on the Mustangs, so he's gambling on dries later on, I would think.
It looked like he was on dries on mediums on the timing screen there, unless you're seeing something different to what I'm seeing.
Interesting. That's Nicholas Hubin. That's wrong, Nicholas.
Yes.
Now Lemoyne is showing me on the timing screen he did not change tires. So
he's just done the fuel stop. Okay. He is on mediums. Yeah, okay, well, Niclas Domino seems to agree with me that he's on mediums, so...
Yeah, but he does clearly say so there, so...
And he's struggling. Look, he's going to let them through. So through goes Lydon and Delorme, so he doesn't get involved in that battle whatsoever, and that's quite wise, I think, for Niclas.
But we have our first hypercar in. Yene Simonchich, is it? No, Michi Hoyer is coming in. So our first hypercar then coming in to pull the trigger. And there is Michi in the Falcon Ferrari. We'll see what he chooses to do. Everyone choosing now to pull the trigger, see if the mediums are going to hold. Luke Whitehead still finding pace, though, on his original set of tyres.
Yeah, keep in mind they've been going for, what, 45, nearly 50 minutes now? So, yeah, the tyres are going to be worn, and they're starting to run a bit low on fuel and virtual energy here. So,
well, the virtual energy looks like it's okay, because they haven't been able to push the car as heavily as they would in dry conditions. They're not draining the tank as heavily. So they're in the kind of 35% region. There we go. That's the tower.
Close off to the outside of Manisha.
Can he get it done? Nicely done in the Lamborghini. Again, I would imagine this is a tyre argument for Manisha. He defended so well so early on, but has burnt the best out of those wets and is now at the mercy of Julian Heno. Still some pace in it, though, closing in on the Lamborghini. Oh, Julian Heno banzais the inside of Interlagos. Can he get it done? Still side by side with Manisha.
That's Hoyer really struggling on the dry tyres. And look, here comes, is that Emulo or Gillison, I think, going through to lap Michi Hoyer here.
Oh, dear. You see, Michi Hoyer's got nothing. As soon as you take the mediums onto wet, it's a wet surface, you are just going to sail off, and there we go.
Do you have much choice, though, is the question at this point. If you're doing the pit stop, you know the track is drying. You don't want to have to make that extra stop then. So it's whether the time lost in this stint where the track is really not ready is worth it or not. We also saw Alexander Hanna, I believe, is also pit and come out now in 13th position, right behind Christian Malguera. He is also on the dries now as well.
Yeah, that seems to be the way everyone is going. But there's still, you can visibly see there's still a lot of water. That the water off the racing line, it's not dissipating an awful lot. So if you're going to have to try and make a move on slick tires, you have to go onto the wet stuff. So, but the dry line is too dry and too hot for the wet. So this is a very, very awkward position.
Yeah, sun is well and truly out though, so this could dry out really quickly. This is going to be a very quickly changing situation as Gillison threads the needle in the lead of this race. He is doing an absolutely fantastic job in this one so far. Since taking the lead, he's never really looked back, and Emulo has never really been able to cut into that 5-second advantage. As we see, Menard. Is that Jimmy Menard trying to hold back? He's, I think, putting a lap on... that's Menard putting a lap on Hoyer, sorry.
Oh, beg your pardon, yeah. So Ulrich is the next driver.
Oh, look at Rigoletto still going all over the road looking for any bit of moisture to keep these tyres alive. So Grigolato in a very desperate situation as he desperately tries to keep Price and Geitz close in front of him, I think. But yeah, he seems to be fighting a struggle. It's a real struggle for him at the moment here, and even Simicic, 8 seconds down, could catch him quickly if he keeps losing lap time. Is Ulrich as causing a yellow flag there?
What happened to Moritz then?
Might have had to cut the first chicane center S there.
He's done a fair amount of lawn mowing in this race already. Now, what has happened here is he's got nothing left in those tires. No, he's kept it inside. There we go. So this is nothing left. There's very, very little left.
Might have hit the curb there as well, which is obviously the last place to dry, annoyingly. in these
yeah. Well, I would imagine a few more people are going to scrap it into the pits. Alexis Heron is still quite happy out front in the Lamborghini, to the tune of 4 seconds over Luke Whitehead.
Even if you are setting fastest laps, that doesn't necessarily mean the tires are in great condition or that they're happy out there, because it's how much time could you potentially be gaining. Oh, that looked like Erchan being a bit held up by the traffic and about to be attacked by Gilhead down the Red Aposta into the turn 3 there. Curva del Sol.
Geitz is in.
He's just held him off. Yeah, Brandon Geitz is the first of our sort of top 7 then to come in.
Oh, Smitty Hoyer is... now, is he a cork in the bottle, or is he actually finding some pace now on those dry tyres? This has got Johannes Price right up his tail, and Fabio Grigolato in the mix now.
This is a nightmare because he'll be getting the blue flags, but he knows he can go faster. The problem is he can't keep the tyres up to temperature. He keeps having to let people through, but let them through he must.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he was going to pull in front of Fabio Grigolato, and Mitty Hoyer's he's going to have to go on to... Well, the offline is still damp at this stage, and that's going to make his tyres even worse. Here comes Brandon Geitz then coming out of the pits on the medium tyres. The pit lane is still going to be wet, so he's going to have to be very, very careful not to just spin his wheels. You can see he's fighting that Peugeot even when it's nearly straight to get out of the pit lane.
Yeah, Geitz might have timed this a bit better, though, I think, than Mitchy Hoyer, with those few extra laps staying out, as we see Alexis Hearn setting another fastest lap of the race. Gilhead close to the back of Erchan, but I feel like he's just been playing the long game here, and Gilhead sort of knows it's really the pit stop that's going to be the best opportunity to get into 3rd place against Erchan here. So, yeah, this is sort of a stalemate between the two of them at the moment.
30 minutes and change left of this race, and well over halfway now as the sun beats down on Interlagos. Yeah, all the reflection of the road.
You better get the sunglasses out.
Yeah,
put the umbrella away.
Oh, as Arnaud Erchan squeezes his way past Luke Whitehead, and Luke Whitehead is minding his own business and doing his own thing as the Falcon pair.
But look at the virtual energies, by the way. Whitehead and Leiden especially really low at this point. So, yeah, they can only stay out there for so long. Our GT3 leaders are going to be forced into the pits, whether they like it or not. Biela's now coming in as well.
Biela is indeed in the Ferrari. So we'll see then how now I would think
close between Biela and Geitz as well. I think Biela just exiting the pit lane line now, and Geitz I think is not far behind him. There is Brandon Geitz just coming through turn 1.
Yeah, there is Brandon. Now Biela is long gone. He's there. He is.
Oh, so, but of course he's still got to warm up these tires though, whereas Geitz may have gone through that phase already.
Well, true enough, but the track is going to be slightly drier and slightly warmer. Then as you see, Geitz is still warming them. So that, or he's trying to get the attention of the Falcon Lexus right ahead of him.
But, yeah, you can see that's Gillison behind him though, so he stayed on the lead gap crucially, guys. So he hopefully won't get too many blue flags here, as long as he can disappear into the distance before Gillison arrives.
Yeah, hand is in. So the lead GT3 Lamborghini has pulled the trigger, along with Alexander Lay, along with Marin Bessier. So now the pit lane gets very, very busy. As the GT3s, again, bearing in mind that the pit lane is still very wet. Throughout from beginning to middle to end, and the amount of wheel spin going on the Lamborghini is very much testament to that.
Yeah, now Whitehead will be hoping with the better track conditions he can effectively overcut Alexis Hearn then So he's really got to hope that Hern struggles a lot more on warming up the tires here. But of course, we saw him nail the start of the race. He nailed qualifying too. Well, nearly did it, didn't he? Oh, no, he did get to take pole ahead of Whitehead, didn't he? Yeah, I'm getting mixed up. So yeah, Alexis Hern has not really put a foot wrong in this race. Oh, Grigoletto in trouble in P7. He spun right across the track at Bica de Pato. And our championship leader, the tires are absolutely gone. Grigoletto surely got to come in soon.
You've got to think he must. That's got to be the final now. And again, he's just... This has been a day of frustration for our championship leader. What has happened here?
Qualified on the front row, let's not forget.
Yeah. Yes, he did. Absolutely true. Oh, it was actually under braking.
Oh, big hit.
Ouch. That's not going to buff out in a hurry. So in comes Grigoletto. I mean, the rear wing's still on somehow. But that is a very, very unhappy Italian, I dare say.
Oh, Emilo's been caught here by Erchan. Sorry, so Dario Emilio must have had a really tricky lap then. So even our lead Ferraris, Gillison seems to be okay at the moment, but Emilio is really starting to run out of tires here. And look how wide he's going. And that's going to allow into Pinarino a chance for Erchan or maybe even for Geelhead to take advantage of this unexpected interruption here. So big fight for P2 in motion here. And they're all surely thinking about when to pit here. They all want to go as long as they can, but can they go any longer?
That's the question, isn't it? Suddenly is wanting to be very, very narrow at this point. But Sven Gillhead had to stay on the wet stuff. Well, there's probably not a lot of wet left now. You can see the dry line is still distinct, but the wet side of it is not as wet as it has been all day. Grigoletto is in. He had no choice. He had to come in. Still more laps being done.
Well, repairing. He has to pit for repairs, of course, to the rear end of that car. So this is going to put Grigoletto maybe at the points. As there we go. Still, Michi Hoyer desperately trying to make sure he doesn't lose another position, but pitting so early. He's lapping quickly now, but the problem is the damage is kind of done at this point, as Hannah says the fastest lap of the race just in front of him in GT3 class, having pit for dries. So Alexander Hanna in P10, about 3 seconds. Marin Bessier Hertz, I think a 2:38. He is starting to catch Heno in front of him, but the crucial thing there, 1:46 for Whitehead here. Can Luke Whitehead eat into that, was it 3.5 second lead before the pit stop? Grigoletto is finally out of the pits then, but in 11th position out the points. The other thing that's happened, Brandon Geitz has overtaken Rafael Bila on the warmer dry tires and gotten back up to P8. He should be able to undercut Price and Simcic here as well.
And there is Luke Whitehead as Nicholas Lemoyne gets his name on the fastest lap board by a whisker under 140. Very nicely done.
He was the first to pit for the dries then, so he's gone through the most pain, I think.
Yeah, so very true. There is our GT3 leader, our GT3 championship leader, I should say, Alexis Herrant, staying out of the way of the hypercars coming past him. So it's fairly expected that he'll resume the lead spots.
Okay, so look at the... here we go. Luke Whitehead comes out, and he's going to be down to third behind Hearn, and Heno's yet to pit then. But the other thing that's happening is Gillison comes into the pits from the lead in hypercar. What I was going to say is that Price and Simicic have both gotten ahead of Brandon Geitz, but Geitz is all over the back of Yene Simicic on tires that are working well here.
Oh, Yene, speaking of Simicic, with arguing with Brandon Geitz. Oh, the Peugeot cuts to the inside line very dramatically at Ferrazura.
So much more grip. That wasn't even a contest there. Yene was never going to hold that back. So yeah, Brandon Geitz will hope to disappear before the Valkyrie warms up its tires here. But yeah, Gillison will be so crucial for him not to emerge in traffic here. But for Luke Whitehead, 4.7 seconds behind. So Hearn has undercut him a little bit. So it's kind of stalemate as they were then. Whitehead looking like he might have to settle for P2 here, as we see that looks like Lay trying to pass Patrick Schindler for P6.
Once again, these two dueling for their own bit of real estate as the Falcon Lexus keeps the Oplite Mustang at bay. And very much into the closing stages now, 23 and a bit minutes to go. But still, we've still got cars out there on wet tyres, amazingly.
Yeah, our three leaders in hypercar all on the wet. Tenno as well in GT3, but he is losing time hand over fist at this point. So, in they come. So it looks like both Erchan and Gilhead pulling the trigger at the same time, and that could potentially give them a chance to undercut Dario Mulo here. So Mulo didn't want to pit earlier than they did, I think.
Yeah, curious decision, but we'll see who's gonna be the victor of the strategy call. Michi Hoyer. Well, it's been a while since we've seen the German driver with the fastest lap of the race, but he has managed to do so. But he is down in 10th position.
Yeah, 12 seconds behind Symmetry, so pitting early has cost him quite a bit of time there.
Yeah, big shame for him, but yeah, it's one of these things. On a different day, that would be the perfect strategy to do. Not so much for him. Oh, as Alexander Lay is now ahead of Patrick Schindler by quite a margin, is he? Yes, he is.
Yeah, so possibly a mistake for Patrick Schindler then. And he's now got Bessier and Hannah right behind him as well.
So a potential mistake then from Schindler. That screams very much of he's gone too deep into turn one, but we'll catch up with that. Out in tandem and out in tandem for the Falcon pair.
And they're currently in second and third, so Gillison's not arrived on the scene yet.
No, so
they overcut him. This could be a brilliant strategy call, but can Gillison catch them on the warmer tyres now?
Well, that's the thing. We've seen drivers having to really work the tyres very hard to get them to temperature, as Brandon Geitz briefly from Rafael Bila gets the fastest lap. Now, here's what happened to Patrick Schindler. Still arguing with Alexander Lay. The Mustang on the outside line coming down.
Oh, and look at that. Delorme having a go at Tommy Lydon as well. There we go. Schindler just outbrakes himself. Bit of damage to the front as well.
There was a tiny contact between the two as well. So either way, Patrick Schindler outbraking himself into turn one.
Yeah, Gillison's right behind them now. So will they use Gilhead to hold him up? Can they? And you can see Erchan trying to disappear up the road. This is really race-deciding stuff as Emulo is in.
Oh, well, whether that was slightly too deep for Erchan, he cannot disrupt the momentum of the Ferrari.
And Gilhead goes through as well.
Yeah, so look how uncomfortable the Falcon pair are at the moment. Erchan's not having it. He's trying to defend it. Oh, Johannes is off. Johannes has had a problem. Johannes Price now down in the 8th position in the Peugeot. And a drive-through penalty for Heno. Oh, no. He led the way in GT3 for a period of time, but now has got himself a drive-through penalty.
There we go. Well, he left out so long. I think he was just struggling to get the wet tyres slow down for the pit lane speed limiter in the dry there. This is, is this Bieler and Price coming together? Oh, dear. And that was really a bit of a risky move from Rafael Bieler. He's come to a stop to let him back through, though. So I think, did he let him through? No, he's trailing him as 2 seconds ahead then. As this is Emulo, but now out in the lead, but surely Gillison is going to breeze past him.
Yeah, he must. Emulo's tyres must be down to absolute canvas by now.
No, he's pit as Emulo and come out 3 seconds ahead. But now the tyres are going to be bone cold. Or bone cold? Ice cold, probably. They should heat up quickly, but the problem is surely Gillison is going to pass him before that happens then. You can see Isaac really pushing here because he knows there's an inter-team battle and the win is at stake here.
Dario Emulo will most certainly be wanting to add a podium. He's only seen the podium once so far this season. But
the real battles with Gilhead behind. Here we go. He leaves the door open and through goes Gillison.
By intent or not, I think that was intentional, but there was, even if it
went a lot wider onto the wet stuff than he needed to. And hopefully that hasn't cooled the tyres too much because look at this Gilhead arriving at a rate of knots. Yeah,
Sven Gilhead in the Alpine wants to elevate to the next step of the podium. So whilst it looked initially like the Falcon pair had the jump on Gillison, Gillison has just stormed through back into the lead. As we now look at Patrick Schindler at the mercy of Marin Bessier.
Yeah, also what's happening in GT3s, you can see it there, Lay on a charge in his Mustang because Delorme wasn't able to pass Lydon defending into turn one as we saw earlier. That has brought Lay into the mix here. So can Alexandre Lay get into 4th and maybe challenge Lydon for the podium in these closing stages as here comes Gilhead going for P2. Emulo on the inside. Will he break Lay? He outbreaks himself. He locks up. Can he make the corner here to Curva del Sol? No, he can't. And surely Erchan now will punish that as well.
Oh, the camera was awkwardly placed there, but Erchan with the momentum in the Falcon livery Cadillac. Yeah, Dario Emulo, he knew he had nothing against that. He was just too late on the brakes and on the slightly damp part of the circuit. and sailed off into the sunset. Let's see it again from a different camera angle. So Domino tried to go to the defensive posture, in fairness, but
he really didn't want to go on the wet, so he locks up just slightly on the wet stuff as well.
Yeah, and through went Geelhead, and then very shortly afterwards, Arda, as we saw, followed suit to try and keep tabs on his teammate.
He's back through. Look, he's back through already on Earthchan. So, not taking his sitting down, is he? He's finally got the tyres up to temperature.
Yeah, absolutely true. So, Arda Earthchan may well have made his own mistake there. As they are still working their way through the GT3 field. Here comes Arda Earthchan back on the Ferrari. Now, can the Cat Eye do anything about it? It's another one of the GT3s. Oh, that's Manisha. And again, you see Domino going onto the wet stuff, locking up. It's gone too deep, but Arda Earthchan's not gone comfortably either through the center S's. But Domino had to be very, very careful about how he rejoined the circuit, and he's going to lose him even more time.
All this allowing Geelhead to escape up the road as well. So, yeah, it was a bold strategy by Milo to go later. I wonder if maybe he would have been better served pitting a lap earlier, maybe, and sort of covering off what Falcon Esports were doing there, and he might have been able to hold on to the P2 as a result then, but it's put him in a trickier position. A couple of lockups really costing him there. Meanwhile, Brandon Geitz, who was the very first of our hypercars, to pit onto the dry tires, he's now within about 3/10 of Dario Mueller after that big mistake then. So Brandon Geitz, fourth in the championship, now challenging Emilio for fourth in this race as Hurt continues to just pull away from Whitehead. So that's a 136.7, nearly 7.5 seconds up the road from him. And Whitehead actually beats that though. So Whitehead actually, if anything, starting to close on Hurt and having pit a bit later. As here comes Geitz all over the back of the Ferrari Esports man.
Oh, Dario Mello, what looked like was going to be a spectacular charge for the podium is now undoing itself quite dramatically. Brandon Geitz, bearing in mind that he's had quite a few adventures as well in the Peugeot tonight here in Interlagos. He's now going to try and challenge for that fourth position. Dario Miller goes that defensive posture as much as he dares, but he doesn't want to go too deep into the slightly damp line, and again is locking up into turn one. He's really struggling with the balance of the Ferrari now that the weather is very much in the dry phase.
Interesting, though, Geelhead losing a bit of time to Gillison. Look, he's lost almost a whole second in recent history there as Michi Hoyer continued to set fastest laps, but he's down in 10th, only 1 point for that position, so he needs to try and fight against the Yerne Simic, who's about just under 3 seconds up the road from him as we see our fourth place battle. Emilio and Geitz to the outside through Ferradura. Dario Emilio so desperate not to let him through, but there's more lap traffic in the way. That's Marine Bessier. Emilio up the inside, and Brandon Geitz is stuck behind him.
Yeah, Brandon Geitz had a very much to make it.
He's had to go wide.
He's off. Still slightly damp out there on the outside line of Peronino, and that has cost Brandon Geitz. What a shame. He had to bail on that move around Marine Bessie, otherwise he would have slammed into the back of him.
He was hoping that part of the track had dried out. Unfortunately, it hadn't. So this corner, it does not seem to like Brandon Geitz. Every time we've seen him through there, he seems to end up facing the wrong way and on the grass. So that is really unlucky there, but we're not done yet. He could still charge back up to the back. Such is his pace. You can see now Bila has caught right back up to him. Did Bila go around the outside into Pico de Pato? He certainly gave it a go, and I think he may well have made it through there. Indeed he did. As we see Michi Hoyer in trouble. Oh, he's done exactly the same thing, I think, as Brandon Geitz. So having to lap the GT3 traffic is a real nightmare there. Actually, I think he dropped it at the Jun Chao there, sorry.
Well, let's see what the replay has to say. What has the German driver done?
So he's lapping Manisha. Oh, it makes contact with Manisha. So that was just unsighted. The Corvette hit him.
Oh dear, oh dear. Has made a fairly bad race for Michi Hoyer. Oh, what could have been, considering how many fastest laps we've seen from him. So we're going to have another replay here. That's the same incident. So riding on board with, oh, actually behind the pair of them, I think. Oh no, that's Manisha. So
looking at the wheel there, didn't look like any sudden movements from Artyom Manisha. I think Michi was trying to go to the racing line and thought he was a bit further ahead of the Corvette than he was. It's just a misunderstanding there.
I'm fortunate, but sadly Michi Hoyer having to pay the price for that one as we now look at Alexander Lay up into fourth position ahead of Remy Delorme. Now that's Rafael Bila trying to chase Johannes Price through the traffic. as they are now up right behind Mirin Bessier, who's getting a fair amount of airtime. Oh, is that Ulrich that's
going
had a
slow,
spin?
yeah. He's had a moment coming out of Curva del Sol at turn 3 and 4 there, as we see Biela having a past Brandon Geitz after Geitz's mistake. Now all over the back of Johannes Price in the fight for P6. There's a Jimmy Menard at the moment looking very good to take a 5th place in this one. Highest of the Peugeots, despite the charge from Price and Geitz up the order.
Yeah, that'll be the first points for Jimmy Menard this season, which is such a shame. We've seen great things from him in the past. This season not going his way. As you can see, Johannes Price really having to hang on to the Peugeot, going through the slightly damp section, getting around the back of, that would have been Remy Delorme.
Side by side.
And that's Rafael Biela capitalizing on the lack of momentum from Johannes Price, or loss of momentum rather, from the Peugeot, and straight through into 6th for the Ferrari.
Has to be said, Rafael Biela, since switching out of the Porsche 963 to the Ferrari 499P, the Frenchman has seemed a much transformed driver, hasn't he? Scoring his first points in the endurance race at Spa was a very good performance. Of course, he retired last time, but now looking good for another top 6 position here at Interlagos then. So yeah, Biela, of course, in challenging conditions, he's really come to the fore here. There's Simoncic trying to catch up to them and splitting the battle between Delorme and Lay. So Alexander Lay has got past Remy Delorme for P4 here, and in good time too. There's still 11 minutes in this race, and 1.6 seconds ahead of him is the final man on the podium, Thomas Leiden here. So Alexander Lay absolutely excelling right now.
And another 11.5 minutes to continue to do so, as we have a replay here.
So this is the move. Was it a mistake from Delorme, maybe?
Would say so, with the gap between the pair of them coming up to
wide. And then he just misses his turn in because he's on the wet stuff.
So straightforward for Alexander Lay, but considering that Alexander Lay's continued to build the gap, it's not a gifted position entirely, as it does look like he's got the pace to hold on to it, as we now resume this battle between Rafael Biela and Johannes Price.
It is the closest one on track at the present moment. Grigoletto sets another fastest lap. Good to see he hasn't given up yet. With all the issues happening to some of the drivers ahead of him, it could well be that him and Hoyer end up fighting for the final point. And given Grigoletto has got a championship up for grabs, of course, his worst result at the moment is a 5th in Silverstone, but this may end up having to be a drop round as well, the way things are going. So at the moment, if you're Isaac Gillison, you're going to be grinning ear to ear at the moment, because this has just gone absolutely perfect for you, and not perfect, or very far from perfect for your main championship rival, Rafael Grigoletto.
It's going to be a fascinating final 2 rounds of the season after this, if this race continues the way it's going. Fabio Grigoletto definitely one to forget, as he is currently looking at a 0-point score. But still plenty of time to go. I say plenty of time. There's 10 minutes left to go, as Luke Whitehead.
Plenty can happen in those 10 minutes.
Absolutely, it can. Plenty has happened in the hour and 10 minutes leading up to now. So fastest lap of the race for the GT3 contingent for Luke Whitehead, with still 6 and a bit seconds between himself and the GT3 championship leader.
Yeah, if you can put Hurt under pressure, maybe you can force a mistake. You never know. Luke Whitehead is not the giving up type, is he? Unless he's the pessimistic type, often going in, the Mustang is the worst GT3 car ever created. And then all of a sudden he's somehow able to get underdog results out of it out of nowhere. But or great lap times at the very least. He's pulling, look at the huge gap to Leiden behind, who's really under pressure from Lay, 8-9 tenths behind him there, as we see this 6th place fight continuing. And going side by side, well over the curb goes Price. Luke Wyatt will not be keen to see him there whatsoever. In fact, he is not letting him through whatsoever if he can help it. But there we go, finally around the outside goes Johannes Price, but he's lost a bit of time to Biela in all of this. Luke Whitehead sort of in the wrong place at the wrong time, but he's got to think about that GT3 lead fight and not losing time, of course.
Absolutely true, and it's not up to Luke Whitehead or the slower category car to jump out of the way. Indeed, they are discouraged from doing so. They have to be predictable, and it's up to the faster cars with the pace and the downforce to do something about it. Sven Gilhead, he's very low on the virtual energy, isn't he? He should, I would think, have enough to...
That might be how him and Erchan were able to get out ahead of the Ferraris from the pit stop. If they underfuel on virtual engine, they're just hoping these final 8 minutes they can hold on. Gilhead has built a 9-second lead to Erchan here, so maybe if Ian Imulo is a bit of a threat in this final stint and can get the lockups under control, that might be able to save them here. But it could get very tense for Falcon Esports here. They've really risked it on the strategy, but Gillison knows that he's in a really strong position here, and that he can pull away. Fastest lap for Lay, all over the back of Thomas Lydon here. Lydon under real pressure, a second faster than Lydon this lap, and he's ahead already into the first corner. Fantastic move. Alexander Lay onto the podium, but with 20 seconds until Whitehead in front of him, surely that's the upper limit of his ambitions. Nonetheless, fantastic race for Lay.
Absolutely true. Let's see it again. Hoplite versus Falcon. So Alexander Lay was, well, comparatively struggling for pace in the wet phase of the race, and this is what we were saying at the top of the show, that who set the car? Oh dear! That's not the ideal way of passing.
Well, that's what happens when you brake on the slightly wetter part of the track.
Oh yeah, he used the Falcon Mercedes to help turn in.
Oh, mistake from Wheeler. Up the inside goes Price into John Chow.
Indeed. So is that the slightly damp part of the circuit taking its toll again, or was that outbreaking we didn't quite see? As they're now going to come past Patrick Schindler, and here comes Bieler again to try and reclaim the spot. He's going to nose ahead, but Price with the inside line into turn one. I think Bieler backed out.
No, he's gone too deep.
He goaded the mistake there from Price, and the Peugeot's paid the price back through into sixth goes Bieler.
Also, what's happened, I think Alexander Lay has let Thomas Lydon back through here after the contact. Unless Thomas has put a move on, and this is allowing Remy Delorme to catch up to both of them. So podium fight really starting to get very, very intense here. Lay knows only 6.5 minutes to make a cleaner move.
If Lay has let him back through, then that's, again, very gentlemanly, and you can kind of understand it. He was a little bit too hot going into turn one, but the wet conditions are still playing their part in this latter part of the race. So a little bit unfortunate, but Lay back on the attack. But can Thomas Lydon hold on? Let's see what the replay has to say.
Here we go. So Lay into Ferradura. Does he just pull to the outside? Could even be a mistake from Alexander Lay. You never know. Or gets onto the curb. He does seem to be slowing down here. There's a little bit of contact. Yeah, that to me looks like him letting him through.
Yeah. Either it's a mistake or it's a mistake dressed as letting him through. But
I think either way, he will present it as a mistake, as letting him through deliberately.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I mean, he's right back on the case. So Thomas Lydon is going to have a lot of defending to do.
A little bit of front damage on the bumper of Lay's car there. So he's getting very close here.
Which certainly won't be helping him in this very twisty circuit. Right under the rear wing of the Merc comes Alexander Lay. Can he manage to muscle his way past? Only 5 and a bit minutes to go.
By the way, look at Gillhead. He is absolutely really pushing in this phase of the race. He's cut the gap from about 5 or 6 seconds to 3.5 seconds essentially to Gillison. So it's not done and dusted just yet for Isaac Gillison then. Gillhead, as you say, lower on virtual energy, but maybe he is trying to build the gap to Erchan and Emulo behind, and Emulo back within 1.5 seconds. Menard is not far behind either, so we've got 2 podium fights going on here. Bring it on.
Fantastic stuff. It's a very good problem to have.
Wide goes Lydon.
Oh, again, Lay forced the mistake. Thomas Lydon missed his breaking point into turn one, straight through into the podium positions goes Alexander Lay. Sven Gillhead with the new fastest lap of the race. Exactly as you were saying, Ed. He's really pressing on to see what he can do. It will need a bit of a mistake from Gillison, unless Gillison has made that mistake. Suddenly, that gap has disintegrated. So has Isaac Gillison made a mistake?
Could be. We don't know how much fuel is in these cars as well, but it could be the traffic playing its part too. So there you go. You can see there Gillison and then traffic behind him that Gillhead has got to deal with. Bessier and Schindler in front of him there, the team sisters of the car there, as you can see. The Alpine siving through, still trying to keep its chances of victory alive here is Sven Gillhead. If he could win this one, it might keep his title chances alive going into the final round, going into Le Mans. Round the outside of Schindler he goes as Alexis Hearn back on. Whitehead just continuing to trade fastest laps. Whitehead only taking a 10th of a second per lap out of the championship leader though, so Whitehead is running out of time if he wants to steal this win. He's got to hope Hearn pushes that a little bit too hard and makes a mistake here, as indeed does Sven Gillhead.
Yeah, the lead battles may well be hoping that misadventures happens to their class leaders. Alexander Lay now with the fastest lap in GT3. So he's not just content in taking that position from Thomas Leiden. He wants to be able to build it. He has had the pace in this phase of the race. You've got to think he was down in 8th or so at the sort of back of the trains, wasn't he, Alexander Lay in the off-light Mustang rather? But it was an off-light Merc at one stage.
It was, yeah.
But, yeah, it's but yeah, he's now absolutely flying. I mean, it somewhat justifies his move to the forward.
Yeah, so otherwise, in fact, Gillison is now, they've cleared the traffic. Gillison just pulling the gap back up from 2.5 seconds to just 3 seconds. So Gillison, there's not really enough time in the race, I think, for Geelhead, unless something goes spectacularly wrong. Look, the gap 4 seconds now. So Geelhead not really able to take advantage, and maybe now realizing he might need to coast it home at the end here. Meanwhile, Mulo within 8/10 of Erchan in front of him. Grigoletto still trying to catch Hoyer for the final point, but it might be too little too late here. That big mistake hitting the wall, costing him here. And yeah, 13-second gap. It's not going to happen surely for Fabio Grigoletto unless there's a retirement in front of him. As there is this a Mulo? Oh, being held up a bit here by, that must be Hannah in the 8th place.
Hannah, yeah.
8th place Lexus, of course, in GD3. So Emulo losing a crucial bit of time, and that lets Chen ever so slightly extend the gap to just over a second. Price is still right behind Bila, and he's got Geitz joining him as well. So the two Peugeots doing battle behind the Frenchman in the Ferrari, and Simoncic just behind them in the final 90 seconds of the race as well, but not really close enough to make a move.
Not just yet, but now the checker flag will be readied fairly soon. 1.5 minutes on the clock, and that is the man that is looking to take another win. It'll be the 3rd win of the season for Isaac Gillison in such a commanding. Didn't he start as a reserve? He started the season.
Yes. I mean, I think everybody expected him to be quite strong as a Ferrari esports driver. That's not happened by a mistake or coincidence.
Oh, certainly not.
He's earned that place over a number of years as well in other sims too. So. Oh,
entirely, absolutely. So I
think the reserve status was always going to be sort of temporary, at least in his mind, anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was all a matter of commitment. How much of the season? Of course, he did have to miss that opening round, but yeah, since then, he has always been in the mix for victory.
Very much so. He's seen 3
podiums.
podiums.
Simoncic, yellow flag, Simoncic in the wall at Ferradura.
Oh, yeah, in the final laps of the race.
He has to Hoyer through. Will let Grigoletto in, I think Grigoletto is still about 10 seconds behind him.
What's happened to the Slovenian
the Peugeots were fighting up the road, and Yernek got really excited, swung it in, and the back end just loses it really early there, so... a very un-Simoncic mistake there, must be said.
Indeed, and he's going to have to limp that one home, but with enough gap back to Grigoletto, he
5 seconds left in the race.
Indeed, as we look at Michi Hoyer. But there is, briefly, as there is Isaac Gillison. Now the time has elapsed. Final lap of the race then, and it is looking set to be our 3rd victory for Isaac Gillison.
And that, of course, this result is going to put him ahead of Fabio Grigoletto by a couple of points, I think, going into the last 2 races then. So Grigoletto, who has been controlling things, especially since that win at Spa, put him well clear, all of a sudden finding very much on the back foot, and he's really going to have to fight it back in these last 2 events.
And with Isaac Gillison already having a DNF.
Our 2 leaders are going to cross to the line at the same time here, Chris. Fantastic.
Oh, fantastic stuff. So, coming out of Junxiao and through turns 13, 14, and 15 for the final time, your winner in the hypercars is number 21. It's Isaac Gillison. He's chased home by our GT3 winner and championship leader Alexis Hand in the treble 5 Lamborghini. Second in hypercars is going to be Sven Gilhead in the Falcon LP. Superb effort. And second in the GT3s has come home, number 55 of Luke Whitehead. Arda Erchan rounds out the podium in hypercars. Dario Yemelo chasing him home. And Alexander Lay is going to have his first points of the season, strictly speaking, because he has changed car. But what a justification.
First podium.
And fastest lap as well to finish off with. Alexander Lay, take a bow. Thomas Leiden 4th, Remy DeLorme 5th, Patrick Schindler 6th, Miriam Bessier 7th, and Alexander 8th. Alexander Hanna in 8th position as far as the GT3s. as they're still streaming over the line. Yellow was fourth in Hypercar. Jimmy Menard in fifth place. He'll be very happy with those points. Rafael Bida in sixth. Johannes Price seventh. Brandon Geitz eighth. Michi Hoyer ninth. Yeni Simitic by a merest margin holding on to the final point in Hypercar. Fabio Grigoletto out of the points, with Moritz Ulrich rounding out the finishes for Hypercar. Artem Manisha in the Corvette, what might have been for him, defending early for fourth position, but comes home in ninth in the end. Mehdi Hamadani taking the last points position in the Lamborghini. Vladislav Kolosov takes 11th, Lemoyne 12th, Hanno in 13th, and Margera rounding out our finishes in GT3 in 14th place.
Yeah, considering Margera, he's only about 5 seconds behind Hanno over the flag, so considering he was, 50-40 seconds down after the pit stop, that's still a good recovery by him, even if the results don't necessarily reflect that. So, yeah, with all the chaos going on, it was definitely worth sticking with it in this race.
Yeah, so very true. So there again, before Stewart's intervention, Alexis Heron takes another win. Yeah, that is 4 of the 6 races that we have seen. He continues his podium streak in season 4. Luke Whitehead second, Alexander Lay third, Thomas Leiden fourth, Raymond DeLorme fifth, Patrick Schindler sixth, Maureen Bessier in seventh, Alexander Hanna in eighth, Artem Manisha in ninth, and Mehdi Hamadani rounds out the top 10. Alexander Lay taking the fastest lap. Vladislav Kolosov in 11th, Niclas Lemoyne 12th, Julian Hanno in 13th, Christian Margera 14th, and we didn't see Niclas Huben take the start of the race.
Oh, well, pretty exciting one there. Shall I go through the Hypercar results, Chris?
You may crack on.
All right, there we go. So Isaac Gillison takes his second victory in a row and his third of the season then, which puts him right in the mix, just ahead of Fabio Grigoletto in the championship with 2 rounds to go. Sven Gielhed, third in the standing. This will do him a world of good. His second place of the season in his return to the podium. And Arda Erchan, after finishing on the podium at Paul Ricard in a Toyota, now finishes third, takes his second podium in a row after Sebring in the Cadillac. Just holding on from Dario Imulo, who takes P4. Much needed points for the Ferrari Esports man. Then Jimmy Menard gets his best result of the season so far after a fantastic race. The lead Peugeot home in fifth. Rafael Bila, also exceptional performance by him. Another top 6 to the Frenchman's name. And then in 7th position, we have Johannes Price just behind him in P7 with Brandon Geitz in 8th then. So really loads of mistakes for Price and Geitz in tricky conditions, it must be said. So they did incredibly well to get it home, both in the top 8. Michi Hoyer, despite everything that seemed to go wrong in this race, had amazing pace and was able to get up to P9 after a late mistake by Jene Simičić in the wall on the final lap. Holds on to take the final point in P10. Grigoletto, though, will finish outside the points. Our reigning champion, one to forget for him, and it means now finally he's had to use a drop round, surely, because no points here at Interlagos, and the pressure is very much on his shoulders going into our next round at Monza in a few weeks' time. Moritz Ulrich ended up finishing a lap down. Tricky race for the 288. And Giuseppe Di Noi crashing out at turn 2 through Curva del Sol, I believe. So that's a sad end for his day as well. And that concludes the Hypercar results then. So let's see. We got 2 drivers waiting for us at the moment, Chris. We've got Isaac Gillison and we've got Luke Whitehead and now Sven Gielhed as well. Who do you want to talk to first?
Oh, there's a question. Let's have a chat with. I think we need to speak to our Hypercar winner to begin with. Let us drag in Isaac Gillison. Isaac, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me, guys?
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear, sir. Loud and clear. Well, for you, compared to everybody else, that looked fairly straightforward. What was your thoughts coming into this race, knowing it was going to be very, very heavy rain to start with?
Well, I don't know how straightforward it looked on stream, but in the cockpit it was definitely quite sweaty with the circumstances. But going into the race, I like Interlagos. It's a really nice track, and then the rain, of course, makes it a bit of a classic. No, I think we prepared well, made the wet setup for it, and I think that paid off because most of the race we needed the setup for wet conditions. And had really good traction from the line, and then was able to make some overtakes. And I think the switch to slicks ended up being the right lap as well, I think.
What I say, straightforward in comparison to everybody else, because there was a lot of carnage going on through the rest of the field. But once again, Isaac, an absolutely brilliant performance from you there. That's really propelled you right to the top of the table. With just 2 races to go, surely you've got to be thinking about the title now.
Yep, I am. But of course, you have to take it race by race, and then of course the Le Mans endurance race. Who knows what the weather will do there, and what the pace is like, and the next race as well. We'll see. We'll see. Monza, I believe, is the next race.
It is Monza, yes.
Yes. Well, we've got something to prove there, as it is the team's home race. But I'm looking forward to it. The momentum has been good in the last couple of races, and just need to see how the pace is on the next 2 tracks.
So I take it you're looking forward to heading to the Tifosi territory.
Absolutely.
Any questions, Ed?
Yeah, congratulations, Isaac, on your 3rd win of the season. It was it's really interesting to see that battle against it was Erchan and Sven Gielhed as well in the Falcon Esports cars, because obviously you overtook Erchan in the wet. Erchan defended with the lead quite hard and almost backed you into your teammate Dario Mulo. And then during the tire change, they decided to pit just after you, but before Dario did, and they were able to, I think, underfuel on virtual energy and temporarily jump ahead of you before you used the warmed up dry tires to just breeze around them, essentially. Were you a little bit worried when you saw them come out at the end of the pits, or did you expect that?
No, well, it's expected, but it doesn't ever feel comfortable when you see your rivals ahead and they are on the right tires, on the right strategy, and they just pitted 1 lap later, and they, there's a gap of 5 seconds, whereas you were leading with like 10 seconds or something. So it was quite nervy as well, because I'm on pretty cold slicks. They were on very cold slicks, but then on pretty cold slicks, it's still quite tricky to overtake them on the wet stuff. But luckily, it worked out just about. So yeah, very happy with the results.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for talking to us, Isaac. We know the championship is going to get very, very exciting. So best of luck to yourself and Ferrari Esports for the final 2 rounds at Monza on the 3rd of May. And of course, Circuit de la Sarthe Le Mans on the 17th for our final endurance round of the season.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Isaac Gillison. Always a pleasure to chat to you, good sir. Only one GT3 competitor has come forward to have a chat to us, so let's then have a chat with our runner-up this time, Luke Whitehead. Luke, are you with us?
Yes, hello.
Well, that was quite a lot of work by the look of that. So talk us through it from your side.
Yeah, well, first off, good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling a little bit dejected, to be honest. It's one of those races where it was all decided at the start. Granted, I don't think it would have made much difference. The Ford is pretty useless the first few laps, and we just, even though we had about 3 seconds, back from Heron, he just kept extending that gap for the beginning. And even though I basically went all in on making the car work in the wet, we still struggled in the wet. And then in the dry, ironically enough, we really flew. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame. We were kind of making up for that poor start, but yeah, as I say, I think as soon as I saw the weather this week, I kind of accepted that we'd be at best P2, and that would have been like extremely optimistic anyway. So to be comfortably ahead of everyone else, I think it was about 25 seconds or something we had back to P3. I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with the performance, but obviously the result, is a bit, it's a bit of a shame because I think that pretty much seals the championship for Alexis now. Like, I think he's pretty much got it unless anything absolutely tragic happens in both the last 2 races. But what can you do? As soon as the bop got changed after Fuji, we were kind of in the mud then. But I'm happy with it anyway. I'm happy with the drive, and we kept out of trouble. Even though we had 2 cars spinning in front of us in the first 3 corners, it was a bit of a tough one. But we got through safe, and we managed P2, which is considering how weak we've been in the previous races, I'm really happy with that to finally be sort of punching up the front on merit.
So how do you feel about Monza next time out?
Not great. I really don't like the track, to be honest with you. I think the car's all right. I think the car looks pretty strong, especially after the recent BOP updates. It's actually had something go in its favor, so we should be all right. But obviously, it depends on the weather. If it's wet, we'll be P2 at best again. But I'm optimistic. I think the car will be all right. But it's just about whether I can be firing on all cylinders that weekend. So we'll see. I'm more just looking forward to Le Mans because Le Mans is my second favorite track really on the game. So I'm kind of hoping I can just coast through Monza, do okay, and then get to Le Mans, and hopefully we can cook.
So a lights to flag finish with the fastest lap. I've called it, ladies and gents. I've called it.
I mean, honestly, if that does happen, I'll be really surprised. But I mean, I think the car's good enough to do it. But Monza, I've always struggled to kind of get my rhythm there. So we'll see how we go.
I am not taking a commentator's curse if you end up in the wall on lap 1, though. I'm saying that to the Whitehead fans out there as well.
Someone's got to. So Edward's unlucky, mate.
Any questions from you, Ed?
Well, I was just working at the points in the championship. I think going in overall, you were 44 points behind going in, Luke or Alexis Hern.
I was going to say, if it's 51 now, then he's already won it with 2 runs to go.
Not necessarily, because everybody gets 1 drop score. So it would be 51, but you lose France, which is only 2 points, but he would lose, his worst result is Silverstone, where he finished 3rd. So he would lose 15 points, effectively a 13-point swing your way. So the gap at the moment, 38 points. So
I basically need to win both the last 2, and he needs to DNF.
Well,
I've just called it that you're going to win the next one, Luke.
Yeah, but it's more about him really. He's absolutely, Heron. You've got to tip a hat off to him. Like he's on fire recently. He's really been like cooking. So, it's more about whether he can have a rare off day, and I don't see it personally, but we'll see. Anything could happen. The hypercars were a bit spicy today, so maybe that can extend to us maybe in the next 2. I mean, it is Monza after all. We all know what turn 1's like. So.
We saw, I think it was Price going all over the curb trying to lap you as he was fighting with
honestly,
Bilo.
there were quite a few that, I mean, I got dive bombed a couple of times and was kind of like, why? But it's one of those, you always get it when it's one line racetrack. But I'm happy with it anyway. So we'll see what we can do in the next races.
Yeah, it was fun watching on the driving track just trading fastest laps with Hunt. So yeah, certainly that first stint, as you say, ended up proving decisive, but you never really gave up, and that's what we love about watching you, Luke, because you always sort of find a little bit of something out of somewhere.
So hard, yeah. I was absolutely hell for leather, but didn't end up being very decisive. But we got that gap down. I mean, I think if I'd pitted 1 up earlier for the dries, it would have been a little bit closer, but. Even then, I don't think it would have really made much difference. Like the only reason we caught as much as we did was because Heron, I think, he was at the mercy of a couple of hypercars, I think. So, but it is what it is.
There we go. So 3rd win in a row for Alexis Hunt. Of course, although Tatum Esports, your teammate in the gold split, Jakob Matrese in his Mustang, has beaten out with 4 in a row in the gold split. So
yeah, no, Jakob's been cooking. It's good to see the team, really firing on all cylinders. So
absolutely,
we'll see. We've got 2 rounds left. Got nothing to lose. We'll just have a bit of fun, see what we can do.
Well, we look forward to that indeed. Well, thank you very much for talking to us, Luke. Well done on what should be, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, your 3rd podium of the season then. So let's hope there's a few more before it's all over.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Amen to that. Thank you very much, Luke Whitehead. Always a pleasure to have you in the box with us. So our final interview volunteer is Sven Gilhead from the hypercar category. Sven, are you with us?
Hello, yes.
Well, you had a lot of work to do in that one, and you fought with everything you had for Falcon. Talk us through it from your side.
Yeah, so, well, it was quite a good race. I think I was quickest in the field even, possibly. Yeah, just quali was not that good. I missed my laps a little bit. But then on lap 1, I gained like a ridiculous amount of spots. Yeah, just chilled behind Arda. We were gapping the cars behind. And yeah, after the pit stop, I just took off for some reason. I don't know how, but yeah, that was quite insane. Quite happy to be back on the podium.
It looked like for a while you were being held up behind Arda. Is it just a case of not challenging each other to not cost each other time, or were you pushing Arda for a while?
No, I was just fuel saving, keeping it calm. Didn't want to lose us both time. So if I did pass him in hindsight, maybe I could have pulled away and have a chance at victory. But yeah.
A strong, solid result nonetheless, Sven. How were you fancying the Alpine in Monza?
I don't think it's too bad. I think it got some minus kilos there. So I'm pretty optimistic about that round. What I'm not optimistic about is Le Mans, because it was one of the slowest cars before the Bob, and they made it even slower. So we'll see about that. But yeah, for
there's
Monza,
still
it should be
time.
good.
There's still time between then and now, though. So could well be in for a surprise. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I'll prep like usual and do my best.
And it's always a pleasure to see. Any questions from you, Ed?
Oof. Well, first off, Sven, congratulations on your second podium of the season, because obviously you got the podium in Fuji and you had to wait a while to get another second place. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the battle with Erchan. I want to ask a little bit about the battle with Ferrari Esports there. So they decided to pick Gillison first, then you and Arda picked at the same time, and then they picked Dario from what was the lead. What was the thinking there, obviously, because you were able to briefly get track position on Isaac Gillison, but on the slightly warmer tyres, he was able to drive around both of you there.
Yeah, I think we pitted at the right time. I was planning to stick it out a few more laps to let Arda pit first, but Michi was already on the dries, and he told us, like, no, it's not an option because the dries are so much quicker. So yeah, I think the timing was quite good.
There we go. So Michi Oy getting a little bit of credit in your podium. Of course, he finished on the podium last time out, so good to see the Falcon Dora Esports team all working together then. So Sven, thank you very much for talking to us. We know if obviously it's a little bit of a long shot in the championship in third, but as we speak at the moment, you're still mathematically in contention, especially as Fabio Grigolotto did not score any points today, and you scored a full 18. So the dream is not over yet. Best of luck in that Alpine for the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you very much, Sven Geelhead. Always a pleasure to have you in with us. And that is going to be it for tonight's festivities. Thank you very much to those that have been with us, either live or post-event. Your company is always very welcome. As you can see on stream, it is Monza for our penultimate race of the season on the 3rd of May. We finish with an endurance round at Le Mans on the 17th. And there's plenty of racing action still left ahead of us. Thank you very much, Nick Domino, for being in charge of the cameras and not hiding everything as you sometimes like to threaten to do. Always a pleasure to work with you, sir. And always, thank you very much, Ed Hunter, for joining me in the box. Again, always a pleasure, good sir.
Thank you very much. You too, Chris.
So we hope that you lovely people will join us in 2 weeks' time, but there's plenty of racing action across the rest of our splits in between then and now. So we hope to see you then. Until next time, thank you very much, and good night.